Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to see that you're interacting already and mingling with each other. Warm welcome to this conference on digital safe spaces for children, hosted by Save the Children Nordic in cooperation with Google.org. We all gather here today with one common mission: to make the digital spaces more positive and safer for all children. Children's perspectives are very important for all of us, and I'm very happy to, even if we have you all seen the agenda, and we have a lot of thought leaders that will be speaking on stage. I'm delighted that we also have children's perspective that will be integrated through the day, thanks to Save the Children. We don't have so many children in the room, but then made sure that we will have children's questions, that to protect children's integrity will be represented by avatars, but we will make sure that they get real answers and that these answers will be recorded so the children get the real answers after. We also integrated children's voices. My name is Soledad Pinheiro Misa, and I have the honor to be your moderator here today. I'm a social entrepreneur and have been working with children's rights for many years. And just that, to integrate children's voices and perspectives, is important for me, and I guess for all of us, not only from a children's rights perspective, but also from a perspective of the importance of innovation and sustainability. Please welcome, come in to the room and take a seat. We are going to co-create this conference together, and it's beautiful to see that we have a room full with knowledge, both from civil society, from tech leaders, from gaming, and also from researchers and university and other leading actors. And since we're going to do this conference together, it's important also, and we come from different sectors, it's important that we take the possibility to interact as much as possible. And for that, we have a program where we have 2 workshops that we will introduce more properly during the day, where you get the opportunity to co-create and innovate together. But we also have this conference is kind of empowered, so we get more opportunities to mingle and interact with each other by a new app called Mingla. And I guess all of you received an email this morning, did you? Everybody received an email? Yes. And you see also in your badges that you have a QR code. You will get the opportunity, if you haven't already started, to use Mingla very soon. We will do some kind of interactive exercise with each other. And I would also like to invite you to welcome each other to this conference. But before, at least for me, before I meet someone else or try to interact, it's important for me to always be connected with myself. And for me, it's easier to be kind of calm, clear, connected, and grounded, so I can actually meet another person if I'm connected to what I like to call my golden spine. It's a place, just saying that, I like straightening my bones and get more straightened out, but it's a place that we all have, that it's a place of authentic belonging and dignity, and also where we're grounded in our values. And from that space, it's easier to meet someone else and to interact from a centered space. Some people call it, like I used to like to call it golden spine. Other maybe just call it their center or their heart. But with that, I would like you maybe to invite you to reconnect with that place. Always be reminded that we all have a golden spine. Like I say, even my ex-husband and Trump, but maybe they're not always connected with it, but it's something that is there in everyone. And when I'm connected with this space, it's more easy for me to be curious with someone else. So what I would like you to do is to take a deep breath and connect with your center. And after that, I will invite you to try to find someone in the room that you haven't said yes to. And for that, you need to maybe look around and try to find someone that you haven't said hi to yet, and reach out to that person and welcome them to this conference that we're going to do together. After you have this kind of human connection, look each other in the eye and say hi and introduce yourself, you're also welcome to mingle with each other and use the Mingle app and scan each other's QR code. And if you have any question or something is not working technically, we have Lisen here from England in the room that can help you out. Okay? Yes. So please welcome each other. Okay, you have approximately 30 seconds left to this exercise. Okay. I'm very happy that you can't stop, that it's hard to stop talking to each other, but I will ask you to try to start concluding your dialogues and also remind you that we will have more opportunities to interact with each other during the day. And please keep up this opportunity to go forward to other people that you haven't met yet and introduce yourself. And for me, that's why, I'm an extrovert, and for me it's easier, and I'm very curious, and I love meeting new people. But even Mingla makes it easier sometimes just to start that conversation. But a good reminder that just don't scan each other's code and start reading in your phone, actually to connect, this human connection that we're trying to facilitate with Mingla. With that said, let's go forward with this. Maybe I should click here. It's good to have a technical expert in the room that can help us click forward. Let's see if it's working. It was working. Maybe we can do it manually. Like, where do I click? Here? Very good. It's good that we have backups. This is an intense agenda that you all have seen. You also have it in the mail that you receive. I guess to highlighted the breaks, since I will lead you through everything else. But it's good to know that we will have breaks so you can breathe and reconnect with yourself and also connect with others. But as you see, we have a lot of knowledge sharing on stage, and you also have the opportunity to have workshops. Now, dear friend, I think we should get started with the first speaker that I've been looking forward to listen to is Thomas Hackman from Oxford University. And his research examines the interplay between digital technologies, particularly video games, and mental health. And he's here to enlighten us on risk and benefits of technological advancements in video games and AI. Please give him a warm, warm welcome to Thomas.
Where's the clicker? Are you taking it? Ah.
Press firmly.
The green button. Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Yes, I'm Thomas Heckman, and today I want to start you all off with a quote, and with that quote, actually, a challenge. I want you guys to think who might have said this, and if you really like a challenge, also about what technology this is. So let me read it out to you. This invention will produce forgetfulness in the minds who learn to use it, because they will not practice their memory. You have invented an elixir not of memory, but of reminding, and you offer your users the appearance of wisdom, not true wisdom, for they will read many things without instruction, and therefore seem to know many things, when they are, for the most part, ignorant and hard to get along with, since they are not wise, but only appear wise. You might think this talks about generative AI. Maybe this was Sam Altman. If you did think along those lines, you're very wrong. You're off by roughly 2 millennia, because this was Socrates on the invention of writing. To me, what stands out is that he talks about youth as ignorant and not wise, and also that he just generally fears, a technology as it embeds itself into society. And this is not the first time we've heard of these moral panics. There were probably many before. I don't know. Maybe they were worried about the invention of fire as well, although there are no written accounts of that, of course. But it also wasn't the last. We had the same with the printing press, where there were a lot of scribes who challenged that. They wanted the invention to be banned because it would take away not only their job, but also the church's dominance on knowledge and power. Right? Suddenly everyone could read the Bible, or everyone could have a book, and they would lose their monopoly on saying what is right. Same with the sewing machine. It would create economic independence for women, which would obviously uproot the whole fabric of society. The telegraph, much more. This one is on reading. This one I find really interesting. Back in the 1890s, reading in bed was considered a disease. It's a habit as bad as taking drugs, one news article said. This one over here is written by the director of the Johns Hopkins Medical Institute, America's biggest medical university, and he said that reading is a craze that had gotten a hold of people, and that is as dangerous a habit like a stimulant. From reading, we go to crossword puzzles. Obviously something that is dangerous. It causes insomnia. It causes headaches, and it breaks up homes, because crossword puzzles are dangerous and should be studied. There are even doctors. Does this have a laser? It is. Here, that warned for the invention of crossword puzzleitis and warranted serious effort from the Health Bureau to study if this was a problem. I'll have a couple more. I think radio is interesting, because radio had this really rapid technological incline when it embedded itself into society. In 1922, there were only 6,000 radios in America, but the year after, that was 1.5 million, and that kept doubling, every 10 years. So this was something that was nowhere, suddenly everywhere, even in your kid's bedroom, and what they would say is that this is the voice of a strange man in your daughter's bedroom. Obviously, this is horrible and will ruin a generation. So radio was blamed for everything. Addiction, too many women addicted to radios. Is it ruining your brain? Is it causing sleep deprivation to eventually maybe a cause of suicide? This one makes no sense to me, but radio waves were stopped because there was a big drought and maybe, it was blocking rain. There's so many more of these. Radio was also studied academically. This is an article from the Journal of Pediatrics. And here, MD Mary Preston, the director of the Stanford Research Institute for Pediatrics, said that up to half of children are severely addicted to radio, and that creates nervousness, a 4-fold increase in sleeping disturbances, and a 5-fold increase in fear. Well, if radios are bad, Walkmans are bad too. Walkmans were banned almost, in many different states before they realized that Walkmans do actually not cause deafness, antisocial behavior, and the likes. I can go on with these. Oh, one more. I have so many. This one is funny because nowadays we're all talking a lot about banning phones in schools. We've done it before, but with pagers, beepers. This actually led to arrests of 13-year-olds. At some cases, even a 5-year-old was suspended from school from bringing a pager to school. And these kinds of panics, there are many. There will be more. I will not touch upon the ones that maybe you're more familiar with, rap music, rock music, video games, social media, television, smartphones, the ones of the future as well. We'll have generative AI, VR, AR, like general artificial intelligence, and maybe even robots, I don't know. Where does the future go? The point is, technology panics are not new. They recur. Every time a new technology embeds itself in society, people will be worried about it. I'm not going to say that this is unfounded, like rightfully so. You want to know, like, hey, what are we doing here? The point is to not run ahead of yourself, make big statements, maybe even make policy, because it might be misguided if you do not first really understand, why people are using these technologies, especially why kids might be using these technologies. And this is what my colleague, Dr. Amy Orban from Cambridge University calls the Sisyphean cycle of technology panics. And the painting, the kind of metaphor she sketches here is that when a technology embeds itself in society, psychologists will rush to think, oh, what is the effect thereof? Let me create a scale that, analyzes the behavior of this technology, and let's give that to people. Let's maybe, what's the effect on depression, on anxiety, on suicide, on anything? And we will kind of like push that knowledge boulder up the hill, but before reaching the top, often a new technology comes along and we kind of just drop it. And we start from the bottom again with the new technology. This is what has happened with almost all of those technology panics before. We do not really build on the knowledge that we have from that past research to inform our understanding of future technologies. So let me talk about one that I know a lot about, video games. Video games also, had its panic already with Pac-Man way ago, but also you must all be familiar with the worries about video games causing potential addiction, aggression, maybe even moral corruption, things like that. Well, we study this. We try to find, kind of put a number to to what extent does it do that? What are the prevalence rates of this? How big is the impact on, your capacity for violence or addiction? I don't do this alone. I do this with all these lovely people. Some you might have known before. Some might be new to you. We have people from Oxford, the Karolinska Institute here in Sweden, Dr. Matti Fore from Tilburg, and we all study video games and mental health. And I will take you very briefly over some of the findings. What we've done in one of our earlier studies is we asked video game publishers, can we get your data? Can we get the time that people spend playing on your game? And then can we also get in touch with those people and then start asking them, every 2 weeks, hey, how are you feeling? What's it doing to you? And we did that for these 7 titles. Over there, some you might be familiar with. We have racing games, We have big online space games, we have shooting games, we have very cozy Animal Crossings, kind of like Nintendo games as well. And for all of them, we found what can be considered super small marginal effects, both on affect, which is kind of general well-being, how are you feeling, and life satisfaction, which is kind of the bigger, unchanging thing, you know, like what is the big trajectory in your life? Does it affect small-scale well-being or long-term well-being in any way? Well, we couldn't find it. So around 40,000 players we assessed. We looked at their playtime over the course of a couple months, and we asked them every week. What we find is that, yes, there's some deviation between games, but this is so small that statistically speaking, it's not different from zero. This was, of course, wasn't enough. We were just like, okay, wait, that's not what we're expecting to find. Let's do it again. This time, we did it with Nintendo. We kind of did it bigger. We asked Nintendo, can we analyze all your games? So now we're speaking about 150 different games. Again, we didn't find it. Here you see, here we are analyzing the previous 2 weeks of playtime and mental health. This time, not only on affect and life satisfaction, we also looked at kind of general daily well-being and depressive symptoms. It's flat lines. What this tells you is here, it was within subjects. So what we analyze here is if you play an hour more than you usually do, so if you start increasing the gaming dose, if you will that change? Because first we were comparing different people to different people cross-sectionally. That might, you know, they might have different reasons for why they feel different ways. But here you're comparing you against a past version of you that just has started doing something more, and still no effect. Also on longer timescales. So not just in 2 weeks, but we even analyzed, you know, their gaming history up to a year ago, and if there was any kind of relationship there. We don't find it, but we want to keep digging. So we want to do it even bigger this time. This time we want to analyze from people their full gaming diet. And with that I mean, if we recruit you as a subject, we want all your play across all your platforms. So we're doing it with Nintendo, with Steam, with Xbox, Android, iOS, and to get the full picture of like, where do you play, how much do you play? And these people will be tracked for 6 months, where they fill bi-weekly surveys. This time, even further than depression, anxiety, well-being, we're looking at sleep, we're looking at other behaviors. We really want to know the full range. And there will be a diary component where for 30 days straight, people will fill in their well-being. As you might know, like there's one company missing here. If there's anyone from Sony in the audience, give me a call. That would really complete the study. This whole study we have already pre-registered online, so you can see the code that we will use to analyze it. And the moment we get the data, which is being collected right now, it will also belong to the public domain, and everyone will be able to study it, and everyone will be able to falsify us or check, you know, if we did things right, or if you have your own ideas, apply it to it as well. We are funded by taxpayer money, and so we belong that, you know, this data belongs to the taxpayer and to the public as well. So what are the takeaways? What are the takeaways I have from video games in a nutshell? And I can talk about this for hours, right? I just think that time spent playing is not a good predictor of mental health. In the end, what's important is the quality of play. It's what happens in the play experience or on the screen. Sometimes I compare this to a digital diet. So you might eat 2,000 calories. I might eat 2,000 calories. That's a crude comparison. If my diet consists of a healthy, you know, balance of macronutrients, and yours is just 2,000 calories of McDonald's, then of course there's differences in that. So playtime is the same, screen time is the same. Your 3 hours of screen time are different from my 3 hours of screen time. So we have to look deeper to really understand behavior in games. That's what I just said. So then to go back to like, where are we in the cycle of video game panics? And if this is the current cycle, what will that look like for AI? Well, I think to not fall into the same trap and not use those takeaways that we have built from video game research, we should apply those, right? The kind of methodological learnings, the kind of understanding that we shouldn't crudely measure it, but we should look at real behavior. We should take that and apply it to artificial intelligence research. How do we do this, right? How do we make sure that knowledge doesn't get lost in the new kind of iteration of technology research? Well, we have built a framework for that. This will be published in The Lancet Child and Adolescent Health somewhere in the next month. It's not publicly available yet, but if you want it, email me and I'll send you a copy of the draft. In this framework, I can't explain it all, but I'll just quickly go to it one by one, pie slice. What we have is we want the tech industry, researchers, clinicians/practitioners, policymakers, parents, and children, they should all come together and collaborate to understand what is a technology doing, how is it experienced, what motivates us to use it, how can we make sure that it's designed age-appropriate, and that policy is also safeguarding us from the harms. Like, to do that, we have to all come together and not join a panic cycle, but kind of a productive, collaborative research cycle. So that means that technological developments at that stage, we should already be integrated. Researchers should already be integrated at the stage of tech development to see, how things are being developed. And so should children. They should be consulted, and policymakers, to understand and not become reactive, but also proactive in policymaking. Qualitative research, basically, everyone needs to do that, not just researchers. We need to understand the experience of the end user, the child. We also need to look at patterns and protect ourselves from bias. So for that, we will need data from industry. We need to see on a big scale who is using it, how are they using it. All this data is captured. It's just not shared. And we need to change that. We need to run experiments, because causality runs two ways. If we find relationships between a form of digital behavior and a mental health outcome, we do not know if that technology causes that mental health outcome, or if someone is already depressed and therefore uses that technology in a different way. We can only do that by running experiments, and that has to happen over and over. Then the evidence has to come together. It has to be synthesized and presented in a way that is understandable for everyone, and also constantly building. So not in research articles with paywalls on it. This is something that everyone should access. There should be an evidence hierarchy of like, okay, now we understand this, now we understand this, now we understand this. And then we can design interventions based on that. We can start clinics, we can start practices, we can start helping mitigate the harms that we have identified are caused by the specific types of behaviors we have found. Then we can assess the effectiveness of that, and then hopefully create evidence-based policy, which will then feed in to the development of age-appropriate designs again. And that's the circle we should be doing with each new technology, instead of the moral panic, where we just drop the ball, but where we build to like a better science. We don't do this alone. We do this in an ecosystem. These are some of the collaborators we have so far. So we have universities, Oxford, Cambridge, Karolinska. We work with open science platforms to share it all widely. We civil rights organizations and advocates, funders, regulators, and some companies. But this is just expanding. And I hope to instill in you that that's why today is important, so that these meet and we can all come together to work on solving these problems. Thank you. Do I stay? Do I?
Yes, please stay. Thank you so much, Thomas, for enlightening us in so many perspectives. And also, I really appreciated both the concrete cross-sectional collaborations example, but also the historic context in the beginning. I have many questions, but most and forward, I would like to highlight, or the question that I would like to ask the most is the question that the children, one child has asked for you. So let's play, as you see, it's an avatar, maybe. But it's a question from a real child.
Hello, Thomas. What is the biggest mistake we are making with AI today, and how can we avoid it?
Wow.
An easy question.
Does the avatar have a name?
You can give him one.
Okay, I'll call him Bob. Well, Bob, if they are watching it later, because it will be recorded, right?
Yes.
The biggest mistake we are making with AI, I think, is the way we are currently developing it. AI, with its enormous potential and power, should, in my eyes, be a public good and not be developed by companies with profit incentives that either work to sell you something, advertisements, other products, subscriptions, or to sell you, your data, your behavior to advertisers. I think the main problem we are making is that those are the powers that are developing this. So their lens will frame, what this technology will be used for and how it will be used. And I think we should kind of, as the public, as governments, as regulators, take some of that back and develop AI according to our values and not the values of, the market economy. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, thank you. And also, maybe if I would try to see if I got it right, because I feel like for me at least, it's always a test if I understood something, if I can explain it to a child. But did I understand you correctly that what we're doing wrong maybe with AI, that AI should be developed in a more democratic way, owned by the people and the children, and with the interest of common goods for all of us, and not only companies that always have their interest also in making money and selling things to us. Did I understand it right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm calling for systemic change, right? Which is not an easy thing to do. But I do think with a technology that is going to have so much impact on our lives going forward, we might need to start considering that more. Yeah, they're not just developing toothbrushes, right? And can make profit off that. There's something bigger going on here.
Yeah. And also to clarify, systemic change, and you can correct me, it's good to have a researcher on stage, but it's that also to explain to children is when you have to change kind of everything around it, how things are done, not only a little bit, but change the whole game in one way, and not only one player. Okay, with that, such a good question, and wow, the answer. Do we have any, it's not easy when we're in this gather, but do we have any questions from the audience? And I would like always, when we open up for questions, just remind you that our questions with questions remarks in the end. So no long explorations or things, but questions. Like the child gave a brilliant example of a question with a question remark. Does anyone have any question for Thomas?
Shoot.
Raise your hand up and then someone will run with the microphone or walk quickly.
So being an entrepreneur myself, I believe that we have responsibility to create innovation, and I do think companies can create good AI. So do you have an example where a company is using it in a good way?
I think there are plenty of companies using it in a good way. Clear examples I don't have coming to mind. I don't think, for example, Anthropic is developing it in the wrong way. I kind of like their values. I like their work culture, and especially in stark contrast to, OpenAI, for example, who we all know is not open. Yeah, so there are, of course, many also smaller companies using AI, as chatbots for people who are in tough, are considering, suicide or something like that. There are these agents that can help right when you need it, when a psychologist might not be available, 3 o'clock at night, and you have to talk to someone, probably not someone, if you're at that, level of desperation, like you probably don't have someone to begin with. So there are many good use cases for how AI can be useful, and in education you'll find many as well, right? Because suddenly education can be tailored to the individual exactly at the level of their own competence, and think with them through problems. So there's many good use cases. I just think that, yeah, it shouldn't only be, the big corporations leading the charge.
Okay, thank you. Do we have, we have many. I think we can take both of them together, and then you can try to answer.
Cool.
So quickly, questions. And you can stand up when you ask it.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas, for a really eloquent presentation. So my question is the following. When you sampled your almost 40,000 samples, how did you do that with the children? What kind of instruments did you use to be able to see that measurement between the effect, the mental health situation with children and their gaming? What instruments do one use when trying to measure that collaboration possible?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask also in terms of geographic spread, is this mostly global north, or do you have global south countries? And when it comes to AI, in terms of it being an equalizing factor, like we often talk about, how it can exacerbate already existing inequalities, but not necessarily. So if you have any thoughts on that.
Okay.
These are great
and also
questions.
just to, since my responsibility is also to make sure we keep time, you only have 1 minute.
Oh, God.
So you're only going to get started, and then you can continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to mix them in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first two studies are, no, the first one was a global north population. The second study was global, but in the sense, if you talk about instruments, that was recruited from Prolific, and Prolific is a recruitment platform where people all over the world can sign up to do research for, money. And we pay double a fair living wage to make sure everyone is rewarded for that. The next big one that I'm talking about, we want to have a representative population. And this is something really hard in video games, because what is a representative gamer, right? If you consider the age ranges and the demographics of who plays. So that we only do in the US and UK. We want to include, the whole globe. The problem is, of course, the digital divide. Gaming requires high-speed internet, also often like devices that are powerful. You will see in the East that, there are countries that are super developed in this. Down south, we don't have that. So this is something that we acknowledge is just a very big limitation. Then the instruments that we use, the only way to figure out, so like playtime and behavior we can get from the company servers because they have it there. So for psychologists, that's a gold mine, that's objective. It's naturalistic. People behaved, they played that game without realizing they were being tracked. They're not in a lab and changing their behavior. So that's really good. On the other hand, well-being, depression, these are all validated indexes. So they're surveys. The only way to figure out how someone is feeling and doing is by asking them. We cannot put them in an fMRI and suddenly figure out if they're fulfilled in life. Okay. So that's what we marry together.
Thank you so much for a very good answer, especially in 1 minute. And thank you, all of you, for the questions. I'm very happy that you're asking questions. And I think as we see also, we broaden our perspectives by these good questions, both from the children and from you. So thank you so much, Thomas, and a big applause for Thomas. And, oh wow, chocolate. Yes.
Thank you so much.
And even if Thomas and I'm not wearing our badges on stage, we have ones, and you can mingle with us too. So you can read more about Thomas and especially stay in contact with him and keep asking questions. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. An applaud again. It's like, yeah, we keep the energy in the room. Now we have some voices from children that were recording doing a children hackathon earlier in this year. Let's see if we
Det bästa med gaming är nog världarna man kommer in med och att ha kul med sina kompisar.
Det bästa med gaming, vad jag tycker, är att alla personer som man möter genom gaming och alla upplevelser som man verkligen får leva, som man annars kanske inte alls skulle leva. Jag tycker man får äventyra mer och se mycket mer av världen, för att det finns mycket spel som är väldigt realistiska och så. Så man kan också se hur det ser ut kanske i olika tider, till exempel framtiden eller... Ja, exakt.
Det bästa med gaming är att få vara med sina vänner och ja, det är kul.
Det finns folk som jag tycker inte borde vara på internet och i spel och så, eftersom de inte har så bra attityd mot folk runt dem liksom. Och det kan leda till både till mobbning och kränkningar, till liksom stora grejer om man kommer för långt.
Inte direkt obehagligt, men det kan komma några hatfulla kommentarer.
Vissa vuxna vet för lite, men många andra kan också fatta liksom.
Jag tycker att de flesta vuxna inte vet för mycket om gaming och det sina barn håller på med. Men det finns sätt att lära sig i alla fall.
Jag tycker definitivt att vuxna vet för lite om gaming. För att på deras tid var det bara ett litet spel. Men nu är det så mycket större än bara ett spel. Nu är det personer och hela upplevelser som händer inne i en liten dator. Och det leder också till att det är både bra grejer och dåliga grejer. Men det är just de dåliga grejerna som vuxna inte vet om.
Så sätten att lära sig är nog bara sitta bredvid sitt barn när de spelar. Eller själv kolla på videos eller själv bara spela.
Prata med sina barn. Vad händer i spelen? Och också prata med experter. Och kanske till och med prova på spelen själva för att se hur det faktiskt är inne i spelet.
Wow. Thank you so much. I always get like, wow, children are so wise. So and it should be, but I always get like impressed when I listen to children. I also, since they launched, I think it was 2011, we talked about it. At the same time when I launched a social enterprise called Retoy, I remember I was like, wow, toca boca. Oh, I say it in Spanish, toca boca. Yeah, I speak Spanish, as you might have heard in my pronunciation. But I was amazed of how they created something so child-centered in a way and kind. And so I'm really looking forward to listen to Chris Lindgren and Peter Karlsson. They're going to share with us designing playful and safe spaces for kids. Chris and Petter together bring deep experience in creating child-centered digital play experiences. So please give a warm welcome to Chris and Petter from Toca Boca. Oh, you have, and yes, of course, they have a Mac because they're creative people. I'm just kidding. So they work with Mac, so we're going to have some computer change.
You can say welcome in 30 seconds again.
Yeah, we can, and then we can applause again. So that's good. I forgot the computer change in between. Is it more creative to work with a Mac, Chris?
Depends on which company you ask, I think. But,
Okay, yeah, of course. If I asked Microsoft, they wouldn't say yes. I'm just kidding.
It might be connected to traditions.
Yeah, it might be. See if the technology is working.
I'm just going to pre-test the sound as well. Yes.
Yeah, and the images look really good. Okay, now, welcome again. Do you need the clicker?
No, you can just go
Okay, okay, keep applauding.
Yes, I am Petter. My pronouns are he, him, and I have been at Tokaboka for the last 9 years as a play designer. And my job is all about designing experiences and environments that invites to play.
And I am Chris. My pronouns are she, her. I had to tell the AI this morning, actually. I've been working with designing for kids and research with kids also for more than 15 years. I've also been with Tokaboka for 9 years, but with a little break for freelancing in between for 5 years. But now I'm back. I'm very happy about that.
And both of us are also part of the Designing for Children's Rights community. It's a volunteer-based, non-profit organization working to raise awareness about ethical design for kids. And together with the amazing people you see in the photo, we have created a design guide based on the UN Convention of Rights to the Child to help designers when they design for kids. And this photo is actually from the second ever meetup we had a few years back in Copenhagen. And you can check out the design guide at d4cr.org. It's a free thing you can just read online and download.
Okay, so I will start with giving you an introduction to our game studio, Tokaboka. It was founded in 2011, as we heard, and we're based in Stockholm, where all the apps are created. And we have somewhere around 170 colleagues. And a really inspiring campus, as you can see in the picture there. We have 2 live productions that are on at the same time. Tokaboka Days is one of them. It was just released on selected markets, Sweden included. It's an online multiplayer game. That's a new type of game for us as a studio. It's very exciting. And the other one is Tokaboka World, that both me and Petter work with, and that we will tell you more about today. Tokaboka World has been around for a very long time and is played by millions of kids from all around the world. So at Tokaboka, we create playful places where kids can have fun and feel free to be themselves. And we let them explore their identity and relationship to others through play, self-expression, and creativity. So these are things that we strive for in everything we do at the studio. And we believe in the power of play, especially open-ended, child-led play. Our founders identified that this type of experience was missing in the app stores back in 2011. There were traditional games with competition and leaderboards, and then there were educational apps teaching things to kids, but no spaces where they could just be creative and make things up and play as they do with their physical toys. So that's what we wanted to create. And alongside play, we also value quality. So we want to make high-quality products that kids deserve and that are made from kids' perspective. And we want to be explorers, just like the kids are. So innovation is also important to us. And everyone should be welcome in our world. Everyone should fit in, and everyone should stand out. And what it all comes down to is this. We want to foster generations of playful people that play well together. And we know that play and imagination are central to well-being in childhood. We know that play is how we connect with ourselves and with other people too. And it's also connected to the development of creative capacities as we grow up. So this is our vision. Yes, Petter.
Yeah, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the game we work with. This is Tokaboka World. It's a game that has a truly global player base and is available in around 100 countries in the world. It is a digital playground, sort of like a dollhouse. And here is how it looks. So in this game, what do you actually do? The game invites the player to create their own world. They make it the way they want by using our tools to design houses, create characters, and style them in whatever way they like. With those characters and environments, the kids then play freely and act out stories, just like they would with dolls in dollhouses. And anytime they want, they can go back and change some designs, add another bed to the house, add another family member, and continuously feel that this is their world that they are in control of. The first iterations of the app back in 2014 was aimed towards 3 to 6-year-olds with role play in its core, and it had no tools for creating and designing. As Tokaboka has grown up, so has our players, and we've learned that we could also play a part in the lives of older kids. So nowadays, the app is aged up, focusing on 6 to 12-year-olds. By including these older kids, the tweens, we have an opportunity to inspire an age group to play that in today's society are playing less and less. We can really take a stand for play by providing a safe space for tweens to play. And this is a journey that we're still on to develop and improve the app for this older audience, making sure that players can grow with the game.
And we also want to share a bit of how we do this, how we go about when we design new content and new features for Tokaboka World. So we have a kids-first approach to design. It's both an attitude and a design method. And it puts kids and their perspectives at the heart of the design process. It acknowledges the need for designers to understand kids' lives of today, to be able to design something that is relevant for them. And it considers kids as valuable contributing actors in the design process. So with this approach, it shifts our focus from the technology to the players, and it helps us to focus on their preferences. And we also have an industry colleague who also works with Design for Kids right now at UNICEF, Shuli Gelutz. And I think she explains really well why this is so important. She has said that by not doing so, companies end up basing their designs on myths and stereotypes, generational gap fears, and misunderstandings of children's perceptions. Of course, childhood looks different today than when we were kids, and we need to be aware of that. We can only see it from the outside. Now, we really need to listen to the kids to understand. And practically, this is how we do that. We involve kids in multiple ways. It's part of the responsibility of every play designer is to do so, and then we also have a research department that helps us with this. So in the Tokaboka World team, we send surveys to our very own kids panel, and that consists of dedicated Tokaboka World players. And they give us inspiration and feedback on things that we're working on. Then we also have ongoing collaborations with schools that we visit every week for playtesting. And there we meet this broader range of kids with different interests and different experiences. And occasionally we do bigger interview studies too, with kids and parents together. to learn more about their lives and their values. And then, of course, we also follow the conversations on social media, where the player community gives us feedback or tells us what they want to see in the game. And it's really helpful to have this mix of channels to involve kids, to hear a mix of voices. We also talk a lot about play and how we can design play patterns that grows with the players. Since we want our game to be meaningful for kids all the way from age 6 and up to 12, it's not an easy task. During these years, kids take significant steps in their development. They are discovering who they are and who to be in this world. They are shaping their identities. And play is an important part of that. And how they play changes as they grow and learn. So there are changing needs that we try to cater to in our design. For instance, we need to offer increasing complexity, while the younger kids will be satisfied with this limited setup of assets and features that they enjoy coming back to over and over again. The older kids will gradually demand more depth and more customization and more skills to develop. There will be a shift from fantasy to reality as the kids grow. So we need to keep a balance there, so the older kids don't find the game too childish, but at the same time that we keep this playful quirkiness that everyone can enjoy and that also signify our Tokaboka art style. So since the game originally was developed from the younger kids' perspective, we are now focusing on adding depth to the tweens. And then as play designers, we need to translate the kids' needs into game experiences and actual game design. And Petter will soon give you some examples from the game. The examples will highlight 3 different qualities in digital games that we know are beneficial for kids' well-being: autonomy, self-expression, and emotional exploration. And autonomy from a kid's perspective could be something like this. I like it when I can make my own choices and do things my own way. It makes me feel grown up and in control. Because in most contexts of kids' lives, there are adults setting boundaries. So child-directed play plays an important role for kids to experience choice and empowerment. And when they are offered these opportunities to make choices, they develop agency. So this is something that's specifically open-ended games which is the type that our game belongs to, are especially strong in. Self-expression could be phrased like this. I feel happiest when I can show who I really am, like when I draw pictures that express my feelings or talk about what I love. And in inclusive digital spaces, kids are able to explore who they are and what matters to them. But we need to make sure that they and the people around them are reflected in our character designs, and also that we allow them to challenge norms. Emotional exploration, then. When I understand myself better and feel confident in who I am, I feel happier and more at peace with myself. Engaging in play, and including digital play, provides kids with an opportunity to practice and build emotional regulation in a safe space. For example, role-playing. It allows children to safely imagine and act a range of emotional scenarios, allowing them to process both things they have experienced, but also things they are anticipating. So these are some examples of qualities that we actively try to apply to our game. In other types of games, there can, of course, be different opportunities to address kids' well-being. And there is an excellent source for learning more about this, a project called Rädda that's co-founded by UNICEF and the Lego Group. And Petter and I have played a tiny little part in helping out with industry perspectives in the project, but from extensive research with kids, they have developed a framework called the RightTech 8 that looks deeply into kids' game experiences and how those experiences can make kids feel and what mechanisms that enhances their well-being. And it's a great resource, I think, for anyone who wants to understand the positive impact that good game design can have.
Yes, so now I will talk about how we talk about the world work towards reaching these 3 qualities Chris talked about. So let's first come back to autonomy and how we can cater for it with the design we do. To do that, first I think I just want to lay the groundwork of talking a bit about open-ended play. So open-ended play can be described as play that has no predetermined limitations or rules. Children simply follow their imagination to allow the play to go in any direction they want and wherever their creativity takes them. No set outcomes, no right or wrong, and no ways to really win with open-ended play. We have only been speaking for 15 minutes. Yeah. It is something kids do all the time when it comes to physical toys, such as playing with Lego or a dollhouse. We want to give our players that same freedom and quality when it comes to play in digital worlds as well. When adults open the app, they usually just see the game in front of them and wonder what to do. While most kids, on the other hand, they just engage and start playing directly. Just like in a dollhouse, you play around with the characters and objects you have at hand. This also means that unless you animate the objects and start to give them voices and stories, nothing will happen. Again, just like real physical dolls or other toys or other digital games such as The Sims or Minecraft, the player is the one who gives the world life and also being the one in control. So let's say you want to do something crazy. Why not have 500 golden toilets in your house? If that's what you want to do, you can absolutely do it in the game. Kids play and explore exactly in the ways they want. And with that feeling of being in control, this can be their safe space to zone out after a long day. Here's what one of our players says. I can make stories and do everything I want. I'm basically the boss of the world, and I really like that. One of the ways we help players to express themselves is through our creator tools. This is a set of tools that the player can use to make their world more unique and their own. We want to support the players and help them unleash their creative power in as many ways we can. And here are some examples of that. The first tool we made was the character creator, with which you can create more characters. And the ambition here is that the players should be able to recreate and style themselves, their friends, family members, or any dream persona they would like to tell stories with. They do this by selecting numerous options of facial details, hair, outfits, and much more. This also pushes us forward in having great diversity in these options, so that our players feel welcomed and included themselves. Examples of that is how we present skin color options, as you see here. We have chosen not to present the skin colors in a range going from bright to dark to actively break stereotypes. And new characters always start with a random skin color tone from a variety, which we have pre-selected when you create your own new character. The final quality is self-expression. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping. No, this is true. I'm jumping ahead, sorry. Another tool we've created is the home designer. When kids play, they very often recreate stories from their life, and few things are as central to us humans as the homes we live in. In our game, this means that the kids' stories very often take part in around the home, where the characters go to bed, hang out, cook food, etc. In this tool, the players can go deep into customizing and shaping their home, choosing furniture, wallpapers, much more. Our players are often recreating something from their own life, but they're also making the house of their dreams or anything they want for the stories they want to tell. So with the game, we started on focusing on homes, but today you can create basically anything you want, restaurants, supermarket, libraries, etc. That exists in the everyday life of kids. So for a player, as one of our players says this about this, I play Tokaboka World as it offers something new every time you open the app, if you use your imagination. It is also the motivation for a lot of my artwork. Now the final quality. Emotional exploration is something that happens when our players are role-playing. They pretend to be a particular character and behave and react in the way that characters would. It can be playing with emotions, different occupations, or acting out stories with young as well as older characters. One of the most common things kids role-play is, as I mentioned before, around the home and family-centered play, such as the classic game of playing house. Through role-playing, they can experience and process many types of emotions. Just as playing with dolls, this also expands to playing with multiple characters, as the player is in control of all of them, creating any story they want. And to meet the need of our players, and especially our aging players, the game experience has to be relevant and relatable. And this comes down to the environment and objects they can interact and play with. Two examples here are the high school in the app that needed to be both aspirational for the younger players, but also feel relatable for the older audience. Another example is that we introduced period pads. These are both examples of things we included in the game to enable our players to create stories and talk about topics that are important to them. We want our players to understand that we take them and their lives seriously. When I have something upsetting or frustrating happening in my life, I can act it out in Tokaboka World, and it can show me a way how to fix it or make me feel better.
Yes, so you could say that this was our recipe for designing a playful and safe space for kids, with the kids' first approach and communicating clearly what values that should guide us as designers, and then finding good frameworks and methods for the team to use. And for us to achieve this, to foster a generation of playful people that play well together, it's crucial we provide kids with these empowering spaces and tools that meet their emotional needs, because they won't be able to fully immerse in open-ended play and self-expression if they don't feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
For a very pedagogical presentation, and good that you had your track of your time. I was just like, I'm just so keen that we have time for you to answer the question properly that the children will ask. And I know that we have some technical things to do here in between. So now you can take a breath, take some water, and prepare to answer the question. Let me see if we do like this then. It's
maybe just click with the mouse on the
here
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Hello, Chris and Petter. I am Leon and I am 12 years old. I have a question that I would need your advice on. How can I help my parents understand why I think that gaming is so fun? All they ever talk about is that I should spend less time gaming.
Great question.
That's a really great question, and I think try to be on both sides here, as I'm also a parent myself. But I think it's especially a great question if you have parents that don't play games themselves. Then it's really hard to understand what's going on in the screen or in the TV. And I think what could help them understand might be to describe what you're doing more in detail. And like, gaming is very often a lot of different things. And as a parent, I want my kids to experience different things and have a mix of experiences in their lives and don't get stuck for too long in one thing if it's not super enriching.
Okay.
But a lot of things are going on. So using a lot of words.
Yeah. But also just if we try to describe it to the child, and another child that we listened to earlier today had the idea that maybe the parents, would it be a good idea to invite the parents to play with them?
Yeah,
to
I
do
think
it
so,
together.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think, but it depends. Sometimes you don't want to invite your parent. So I think that depends on what Leon wants to do.
Yeah.
I remember I had friends when I was growing up, and their parents played video games a lot with their, it wasn't the mothers, I'm sorry. That was the case back then. That's changed now. But so I was jealous about my friends spending that time with their parents. And I remember fondly, like the 3 times my dad sat down with me and played video games with me. So I think that's a thing, if the kids want that, invite them, and the parents try to say yes. And we have a really good experience of a colleague who is a play designer for Toka Days, and she always talks about her. I mean, she's our age, but she invites her mother to play with her nowadays. And like, oh, my mom and we're playing this game this Christmas, and it's like I'm still jealous about that, but it's so amazing, and it's something they started at an older age.
Okay.
But video games are fun, so play with your kids. And Leon asked your kids to play with you. Yeah.
But I can also imagine that many parents, and also going back to the subject of the conference, are worried that it's not a safe space. They're worried that their kids, it's like, what happens to them? Who are they interacting with? How could they, what it's needed for parents to feel that, no, but it's okay, it's safe. Even if because it's like not in a playground where they can stand, you know, just watching how the children are playing. What would be your tip? And now you only have 1 minute.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing if parents join playing, but not all parents want to do that. But you can invite them to watch, and you can explain, like, I am playing with this friend, or this is an experience where I play myself because I want to have my own time here, and this is what happens, or tell them about a story that you are engaged in, that you really like. Yeah.
But could it be, now it feels like I'm doing commercial for Toka Boka, but is it also that the parents know what are the children playing?
No, but that's super important.
Yeah.
Like, I think every parent should know, depending on the age of the kids, but like, I would not put on any random TV show for my kid. I want to sort of know what it is, especially if it's just YouTube press play. Yeah. And the same goes with games. Of course, there are some game companies, not talking about us, as well as there are media production. Like, I'm not afraid to put SVT Play on for my kid. But even then, it can be something that is a little bit scary, because my kid is pretty young. Yeah. So, I mean, be cautious of the media. And it could be games, video games, TV shows, whatever. Like, to be present in the kids' lives, I think.
Yeah. I'll say, if I try to summarize it for the children, it would be both to explain to them what you're doing, what you're learning, to invite them if you want to, because you don't always want to, but try to invite them to play together with you, but also to make sure that the children know, and the parents know what the children are playing. Is that a good summarize?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay. And thank you so much, Toka Boka, for this presentation. And Chris and Petter will also be here with us during the break, and I guess they also have conference badges, so you can mingle with them as well and read a little bit.
We have some stickers with us as well.
You have stickers as well. Yeah, wow, Toka Boka stickers. That's nice. Does anyone know what Toka Boka means? Yeah. Touched your mouth. Yeah, it was like Toka Boka. It rhymes too.
It's the logo.
What? It's like very, I'm like, do we dare? Okay,
Speaker
very short,
privilege. Yeah.
Go.
I was just wondering, there's so many predatory monetization strategies in video games, and I was wondering, how is Toka Boka monetized, and how is the best interest of the child reflected, in your monetization strategy?
Very short.
Wow,
Yeah,
very short question.
Short. We used to be, we only did premium apps. So that meant like buy once, play forever. And we changed that to a freemium model due to this was what needed to be done to be able to keep being a public company, not public company, keep earning money. So we sell with in-app purchases. So they're free games, which enable us for any kid to try to play the game. But then what we sell up in-app purchases need to be like fair. It needs to be very clear. We don't want to trick any child or parent in what they're buying. So I can talk more about this later. But that's how we monetize.
Yeah. Come and talk to us, and we'll show it.
Good, thank you. And I'm so sorry that I really respect also the time that you need for a break. So that's why I'm kind of strict with the timing, as you noticed. So we all respect each other's time. And that's why it's good also for the ones presenting on stage that if the presentation is a bit shorter, we have more time for questions and interactions. But now, dear friends, the time for a break has come, and you can do whatever you need during the break, but I will also encourage you to mingle. And the thing with Mingla, that it's also a gamification of the interaction. So there are prizes, and there are some people that if you scan their bag, there are some questions or some playful questions, and if you notice who it is, you get more points. So there will also be a winner. But don't just go into competing, but actually meet. So we'll meet again here in 15 minutes. Thank you so much. Dear friends, I'm so happy that you're coming in again with your coffee and your fika. We have some international Swedish words like fika, and now we will have mingla as well. And you're more than welcome to keep on enjoying your fika while you get settled and while you listen. But as you have noticed, we're on a kind of a intense schedule, and we need to make sure that we keep on time and that we have time also to answer the children's questions properly. So we'll have, after the next speaker, it's time for today's first workshop. But before the workshop, I will wait until, before we continue with the program, I will wait so more of you can get settled and get in and sit here. Oh, it's filling up. Very good. And hope all of you enjoyed your break. Okay. Now, warm welcome again. Now it's, and I already have the next brilliant speaker with me on stage. As you see, it's Lulu Lee from UNICEF. Lulu Lee is a child rights advocate that specializes in integrating children's perspective into business practices. Also, if you mingle with her, you can read more about her bio. But most of all, I will make sure that she has time to enlighten us on better games for the next generation. Please give a warm welcome to Lulu Lee.
First of all, thank you, everyone, and special thanks to Save the Children. It's really a pleasure to be here. For those of you who may not know all about us, I'm from UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, meaning that our mission around the world is to make sure that the Convention on the Right of the Child, Barnkonventionen, is made a reality by the nearly all governments around the world who have signed them. And just as mentioned, my role is to advocate for, but also to support, particularly companies and the private sectors in integrating and putting children's rights and well-being at the heart of what they do. And it has been such enlightening and inspiring sessions before me, especially Chris and Petter, who so brilliantly talked about the power of play and the importance of childhood, because play is indeed something that is fundamental to every child, that a way for them to connect, to learn, and to explore the world. And I'm sure we all have some fond memories from our childhood related to play. So I'm going to start by sharing one of my own. Does anyone recognize which game this is? Okay, I will tell you. It is Chip and Dale 2. And a Nintendo game, a collaborative one, where you play as two squirrels, who, Piff and Poof, by the way, in Swedish, who work together to solve mysteries, beat levels and bosses. And this was one of my favorite games when I was a child. And I tried for many hours and for months at least, it felt like, with my friends to try to beat the games. And we failed and we had to try it all over again and again. And then, finally, on this cloudy day in a weekend, a friend of mine and myself, we managed to reach this end screen. And as you all can imagine, we were kind of beyond ecstatic. And we couldn't make ourselves turn off the TV because we know then this will disappear and not come back. So in an era without any smartphones, we asked my dad to grab his analog camera and snap a picture of us when we were standing in front of the TV. And here I am, kind of missing my old pants, who seem really comfortable. And still today, I will still say that this was one of my greatest accomplishments in life. And I want to ask you, would you say that what is happening on this picture took place in the physical world or the virtual one? I would say it's probably both. And will it make a difference if my friend wasn't next to me, but at a different end of the world? Probably not. And this also perfectly explains how children's perspectives of the digital world is very different from adults. And I'm guilty of that myself, and I'm sure many here are. We talk about the online, offline, and physical, digital, in real life, you know, all those words. But for children, there is no offline or offline and online because they're all interlinked. You know, the feeling of accomplishment when you beat a game, or the sense of embarrassment or regrets when you accidentally spend too much in in-game purchase. The joy of seeing a friend on the same server as you and about to play together. Or the lump in your stomach when someone says you're a lousy player. All those things that happens in the virtual world have real impact on children's lives when they turn off the screen. And that is why it's so important for us and everyone here who is part of designing and upholding digital environments where children play, learn, and relax in, that we consider deeply about how we impact them, their rights, and their well-being to make sure that we can make more active and intentional choices to not only protect, but also create spaces that are positive to their rights and well-being. And this is the data from the European video game industry. And I hope it also explains why the gaming arena is so important, also for an actor like us. Because as you can see, and probably have experienced yourself, children love playing games and they spend plenty of time doing it. And the engagement and dedication that they show into this world is probably unmatched by most other things in life. You know, so they care more about what people in the gaming companies say than school and definitely their parents. And as we all know, with power comes responsibility. For those of you who have such a profound influence on children's everyday lives, also need to take care of this power and to use it for something positive. And to consider how your choices and actions impact children. And there's also a pretty boring reason, which is called legislation, that some of you may have noticed lately. A number of legal requirements have been put forward by different governments, but also are, in progress. So, for the industry to actually proactively consider children's rights and well-being into their way of working will not only have a competitive edge, but could also anticipate the legal requirements that are to come. And what rights are we talking about? Some people here probably know this very well, but this is really our Bible that has been signed by more than 190 governments in the world and is the national legislation of Sweden. It stipulates and outlines the rights of every child, and that means the things that every child needs and the things that we need to protect every child from for them to grow up safely and reach their full potential into their adulthood. And I would say that the gaming companies do affect many of these rights that you may not think about. From these core principles of non-discrimination to the right to development and the right to be heard in matters that affect you, to the right to play, to relax, to privacy, to learn, to culture, and then of course the right to be protected from all forms of violence and exploitation, both physically, mentally, but also commercially. And something, every time I speak to companies in industry, there are some usually say, well, children aren't relevant for us because we only make games for like 16 plus. But here's also a reminder that a child is defined as everyone under 18. And in fact, people under 18 make up for 1/3 of the world's internet user. So if a game is played by people, children under 18, then it probably has an impact on them. But the good news is that what this company do will also be able to positively influence children's lives. And inspired by Thomas, I also love news articles and headings. So here is my cocktail. That is a mix of what is being said about gaming and children. And as you can see, it is really a mix and it's very vividly debated in public. But if you look closer, you see that just like most other experiences in the digital environments, gaming can lead to very positive or very negative things. And sometimes it might even be so that the same group of children do benefit, but also put that risk in the digital environment, in gaming, at the same time. And sometimes it is different groups of children that will be harmed or that will be benefited by the games. And this makes it even more important for us to not only just remove all this when we see that there are clearly good things for children that could come from gaming. And what we want is to not only reduce the harms, which we of course need to do, but also to keep and maximize what is positive for children, their rights and their well-being. And these are just some key areas that the companies in gaming can influence children's rights. And some of these are clearly risks that need to be managed, and the children need to be protected from grooming, from a toxic environment, from cyberbullying, and also they need to be protected economically from the company's commercial models, their marketing strategies, and monetization strategies. But then there are other things that are not so black and white, and here there are clearly a lot of opportunities for gaming companies to also be part of something positive to children's rights. But before I mention some of this, I also want to emphasize something that needs to be integrated into our thinking when we are making interventions on children online, but also in gaming. And that's parental control and awareness of parents cannot be the silver bullet that solves all our problems and risks related to children. Can I ask how many in here are a parent who has a child in their, okay, a lot of them. And how many of you can say with certainty that you know what your children are doing online and in games? One or two. I mean, I really praise you for doing such a great job. But think about it. If even us sitting here, many of us who are very engaged adults, don't know or can't find out what children are doing, and also try to argue with a teenager and adolescents, what they're doing in their free time. I can imagine what kind of reaction you would get. But even we don't know, what about the children who don't have parents and other adults in their lives who care or who have the ability, the knowledge, or the possibility to support, to guide, and advocate for them? So in everything we do and our interventions to protect children online, we cannot forget that not everyone has an adult who will stand up for them. And the measures we take and the actions we make must also include these children. Because we know from evidence and experience that children who are vulnerable outside the internet are also vulnerable online. And regarding health and well-being, I think that's also something that we have read a lot in the news, whether gaming and screen time is good or bad for children. And when talking about gaming, we know from our research that games and digital play can indeed improve and support positively children's well-being. It will give them, if they are designed in the right way, they can give children a sense of autonomy, agency, express their creativity. They can help children manage and understand their emotions, but they can also help them build and maintain relationships and to solve problems. And many of these are really important life skills for children to acquire, to grow up as successful adults, also into the adulthood. So we know this is possible, which is why we can't settle for games that are free from harm. We need to aim much higher to see more designers, developers, and people in the gaming ecosystems to really put children's well-being at the center, to find ways of creating more digital experiences that are positive for children's development, for their rights and well-being. Because it all really boils down to the best interest of the child, which is not only one of the backbones of the convention, but also probably the hardest principle to apply. Because what is the best interest of a child in a certain situation? And how does it apply in the digital world? It is not about balancing different rights against each other. And not only it covers so much more than protection, but also the access, the participation, and many other things that children will gain from being part of these environments. Because if we only focus on protecting children, we are missing half of the point and the whole potential. And what can we really do to at least to get closer to this? We usually talked about the 3 I's, which means involve, integrate, and invest. So first of all, we need to listen to children. And if you can't listen to children directly, listen to everyone here who may have experience from meeting with children. so that we can consider their abilities, vulnerabilities, but also they can help us identify the emerging threats and opportunities, since we know legislations are moving slow and children are moving quickly. And also to integrate, meaning that we're not asking anyone to invent the wheel all over again or create new processes, but simply to add a child rights lens to what you already do. And at UNICEF, we have a number of toolkits that will help you with just that, including the RightTech framework that we'll mention more about later on. And last but not least, we can't really expect tangible results if we're not ready to put resource, time, and capacity into listening to children and understanding how they are impacted in this world, and to have them help us find solutions. And here, not only can the industry help protecting children in a better way, but also leverage their very powerful networks and platforms for societal good, such as breaking taboos or enhance learning. But also, we know that many children enter into the gaming world as their first entry point into interacting with others online. So why not use this as an opportunity to foster positive online behaviors that these children can carry on to other platforms as they grow older? And again, this cannot be done alone, but we must work together. So I hope that we, in the upcoming workshops, will be able to explore together how we can together create more digital spaces that our children deserves. And for anyone who is curious in finding more about our very newly upcoming design toolbox for child well-being, we'll have an upcoming webinar for you to tune in on through this QR code. And I have now come to the end of my presentation. As you now have seen, digital play and gaming can indeed have a lasting impact on a child well into adulthood. So let's all make more efforts to collaborate, to listen and involve children, to integrate and invest in children's rights and well-being, so that we can create a digital future that is better and more positive for every child.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
I learned a lot, and also looking forward to this. And so
yes,
good with the QR
everyone
code.
who's interested can just tune in a week from now.
And now, what we all been looking, oh, so cute. We're looking forward to hear you answering this child's question.
Hi, Lulu. My name is Maya, and I am 11 years old. I wonder how I can get grown-ups to respect my privacy and not snoop around too much. Lots of parents even read their kids' messages to see what they're talking about with their friends.
Great. Sorry, what's the child's name again? Maya.
Maya,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, for your question. And, really knowing that mobile phones can be a very private and intimate part of your life. So I really understand how frustrated it can get when adults are snooping. Of course, every child, especially as they grow older, have the rights to a private life. But on the other hand, your parents are also responsible for protecting you and make sure that you're safe. So if they suspect that something is not right and you may be at risk, of course, they also have an obligation to act. And I don't really know if this case is triggered by that they are genuinely worried about you being online and what you're doing, or if they're just generally curious about what we're doing, or very, very worried. But in both cases, I think you need to talk to each other, because you also have the right to be part of the decisions that are made that are affecting you. Doesn't mean that adults have to listen to you all the way, but you also need to be part of the discussions. So speak to your parents and see whether what they are really worried about, your online lives, and if there are ways that you can agree on, maybe rules about how to use your phones, or certain instances or incidents where you promise that you will always tell them, because what they are doing is also trying to do what is best for you. But sometimes they may need help from you to really find that way forward.
Wow, thank you. So what a brilliant answer. I'm like, thank you so much. It was very clear, and I think that also for all of us and also to Maya, but I would just try to summarize, see if I understood it rightly, that for Maya it's important to know that she has rights to have her own space, but also to be reminded that her parents want what's best for her, and they're also there to protect her, which is their parents' responsibility. And that's why it's important for them, for both Maya and her parents, or for all children and adults, to talk to each other and to understand each other, and together try to see what are the rules for how they interact and what the parents can look in their phone, but also to know that the parents' responsibility is to protect their children.
Yeah, because usually when you involve children in these kinds of decision making, it will be respected and they will also feel heard.
Yes, so beautiful. Thank you so much, Lulu and Lulu, sorry. Okay, dear friends, I wish we had more time for questions, but we don't have so many times. Maybe we have time for one question. If anyone has like a question with a question remark by then that they would like to ask right now. Maybe my intro wasn't the most welcoming thing to ask questions, but you will stay with us during the day and also participate in one of the workshops. So we will have more time to ask questions and interact. So now we go forward with presenting. Thank you so much, and you get some gifts. Thank you, and I welcome. I'll applaud again. Now, dear friends, the time has finally come to have gaming workshops. You're not only going to be gaming during the everybody's like, oh, finally we're going to get to play, but it's more a workshop about gaming, and there are 3 workshops that you can choose. We are at this place that is called like Slakthuset. It's the butcher house. We're going to go through there, but I just reacted first to the rooms that sound like the veterinary's chamber was one. But we're going to focus on the content of the workshop. The first one that's going to be in the veterinary's chamber, Veterinärens kammare, this right out here, is going to be about beyond parents' control and age restrictions. How can parents take a more active role in the child's digital lives? It's going to be facilitated by Theo Toresson, who's a psychologist working, he's here, yes, for Save the Children. And I guess it will be a continuation from the last question and answer that we have. Then we have a room that is called Slaughter, Slakt one. It's like, whoa, this place. It's good that we're going to be playing and making it more playful. But that one is going to be about radicalization, hate, and bullying in gaming. And how can we make it safer for children and increase adults' presence in gaming environments? It's going to be facilitated by Rodolfo Suninga from Save the Children. Are you in the room? Maybe he's already in the workshop room, exactly, preparing. So you're going to find him there. And this is like, just choose the one that you feel like this is the one that I would like to participate the most, and just go to those rooms. Or for the ones that want to stay in the third workshop, that's going to be how can we make the gaming world safer for girls and promote equality in the gaming industry. That's going to be facilitated by Sara Davidsson from Thunderful Games and Deborah Leidernes from Friendbase. And that, I may probably pronounce it wrong, but she will pronounce it rightly when she welcomes you to the workshop. That workshop will take place in this room. So the workshops are going to be until 12:20. Take the time to interact and participate and innovate and create together. And after the workshop, it's going to be time for lunch. And you will also have the possibility to interact with the other workshops. So if you feel like, oh, I want to participate in them all, just make sure that then you talk to each other or sit in groups. There are mixed during lunch so you can learn more. Any questions? No. Okay. So warm welcome to the workshops. Okay, dear friends, warm welcome back. And please take a seat so we can continue with the program today. I'm happy that I see that you're mingling and changing information with each other. But beautiful if you all can take a seat. And you can fill up the seats in front here too so we can get started and continue with the program. We have some amazing speakers coming up, and we also have another workshop. It was beautiful to see that many of you couldn't stop talking during the workshops. It often feels like that in this kind of conference, that you just get started and then the time is up. But it's good that you can continue realizing and maybe putting into practice all the things that you talked about in the workshop. It's mostly, all of the things, it's all in the execution of the ideas that you talked about. Talking about execution, this was before the break. It was like, since the mingle, I think, is also kind of a gamification, and we will have a winner. So now you see how some others, and maybe now they increase their points. I can also say that some people, it's like you get a lot of more points if you scan, and I'm one of them. So if you scan my QR code, I will put it on, you get extra points. With that said, it's time, well, you see the schedule is quite busy. We have one more break, and I think we should just get started with the next point, which is creating digital safeguards. And for that, it's a big honor for me to present two leading persons within Save the Children in Sweden. It's Elin Palmstierna, who is advisor for radicalization, and Theo Thoresson.
That's perfect Swedish pronunciation.
Oh, thank you so much. Who is child psychologist at Save the Children. A warm welcome.
Thank you.
Both of them.
How many points am I worth? When you scan me, how many points am I worth? The same amount as you?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. So we're going to talk about our digital safeguarders work, and let's get started. We are doing this work together with Länsförsäkringar, and you're going to get into it more in just a few minutes. But firstly, let's say a few words about gaming and why it is fun. So, how many of you know of this poster, by the way, like this documentary? Just a hand in the air. Yeah, so some of you, like almost half of you have seen this now. It's because Netflix bought the documentary, I think, so they're spreading it wide. This is the first reason gaming is fun. This is the socializing part, and that is what most children are telling us, why they're playing online games. This documentary, it's for the ones who haven't seen it, I really recommend it. It's a very, very moving story about Ibelin, who is his World of Warcraft nickname. This guy, he had a muscle disease and died very young, but his parents thought that he was quite alone in his life, but it turned out he wasn't so alone after all. So go and watch it on Netflix. The other aspect of it is creativity. So actually, for example, what Tokaboka talked about earlier, right? Playing Minecraft is basically building Lego, being social, and exploring your fantasy, but in the digital world, right? Then we have this, and this is, I think, very important, especially for children who might not be doing so well in school, but they could be getting their sense of self-worth from another arena. And it's a very important aspect that should not be disregarded, that you can actually feel very competent and while competing and advancing in games. We have the problem-solving aspect as well, which is, of course, like actually using your brain and solving problems and finding new ways to tackle them, which is something a lot of games center around as well, which is a main part why many people think gaming is fun as well. Just like, by show of hand, is there anyone who likes puzzle games or playing puzzle games in here? Yeah, so you know the problem-solving aspect, right? It's fun. This aspect is basically just like taking a break from your everyday life, and that's very important. It's actually in the human rights of the child as well, right? That every children have the right to relaxation and play. And so, like, this is the part of gaming that's not maybe, you know, it's not developing anything. It's just basically a break from what is hard in life and all the chores you have. We have the amazing stories, of course. For example, the game The Last of Us was made into a television show that was broadly popular a couple of years ago, right? And that made it into the public's eye. But a lot of games have the same, you know, stories and worlds that sort of, this is basically games as art, right? That's that aspect of gaming. Also being able to explore new worlds and trying out new identities. Who am I and who can I be? Which is especially important in your teenage years, right? Trying out you know, new aspects of yourself that you might not be, you know, ready to try out in real life, but in a safe, anonymous way online. And lastly, I think this is probably also something that's, you know, it's maybe not something that everyone describes as fun, but it's still something that's quite satisfying, right? So this is basically, you know, when it comes to collecting, I don't know, wine glasses, whatever, we do it as well, adults, or collecting beautiful furniture. This is something that children do as well, right, in the games. It's nice to have your own, you know, sort of account, and this is everything that I've built, and these are my things, and I can show them to you, and I can trade them with you, and all of that. So those are some words on why it's fun to play, and let's move on to the other aspects of gaming with that.
Thank you.
Elin.
Because just like Theo says, and many other people have mentioned today, the gaming community is in a lot of ways a great place for children to socialize and interact with others. But just like life elsewhere, it also contains difficult things, and it can be quite an unfriendly place. And we know this, yet while children are adapting to life online, and their parents and other services meant to protect them are often not. We know that children often feel like their parents only see the negative aspects of gaming, and that they don't ask for help, even though they might need to, out of embarrassment or fear of being punished, having their devices taken away, or likewise. So if something bad happens, they tend to deal with it themselves, which shouldn't be the case. So based on this and our work with children who have been exposed to online harms, who have experienced grooming, who have sought attention and community in environments that they should be protected from, who have adopted a hateful language that has become normalized and unopposed, we decided to team up with the Swedish insurance agency Länsförsäkringar and join their initiative Digital Safeguarders. Because we want children to have access to all the great things that gaming community offers, but that they can do so more safely and in the presence of well-meaning adults. And by training individuals who themselves are gamers, we hope that we can better reach and access children on their own platforms. And in this specific situation on Discord, which we know is famous both for its popularity and its problems. And hopefully we can serve as an inspiration to others. You can change. One of the most important aspects for us is that we ensure that our programs are safe and secure for children. And the training of volunteers is an important aspect of that. And in addition to training, we will offer continuous guidance so that the volunteers will feel supportive and that they can voice concerns, share questions, ideas. And if a child comes into or if a volunteer comes into a contact with a child who's in need of extended support, there is a system for referrals. The main assignment of the digital safeguarder is simply being there and acting as a role model, and to help identify children who might be in need of further support and refer them either to our own services or services provided by others. And by engaging with children in their own environment, we also hope to learn more about their own digital realities, and in the future support even better practices. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And applauses.
And do we have time for this?
Thank you so much. You also get chocolates. And unfortunately, we don't have time for questions. But
ask us later.
Yes, we can interact with both of them. And also Save the Children, we don't have a question from the children because you interact with them all the time. You get them every day, exactly. So now we're moving forward in the program, and it's an honor and beautiful to welcome up Sara Övreby from Google Sweden. Sara is Public Policy and Government Relationships Manager at Google Sweden. She has a background both within government and also in the industry. I read that she had worked for the Minister of Culture, and now she's leading many initiatives within the tech sector as well. As soon as she gets her microphone on, we're going to welcome her on stage. But we can start applauding already now. So now, well, please welcome Sara. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I had hoped I could have a really, really long applause. But hopefully that comes afterward. Happy to be back to my roots in Malmö. I'm not from Malmö, but from Skåne, so it's always nice to be able to speak freely. I'll try to do that also in English. For over 25 years, Google has offered products and services to deliver on our mission, to organize the world's information and make it accessible and useful. And the purpose of all of this is that we want to build a helpful Google for everyone. And today, thanks to technological advancement, all of us, including our children, have the world at our fingertips. It is fair to say that the last 30 years have been revolutionary. However, I believe, and we at Google believe, that this is just the beginning, and that's in a good way. When it comes to AI, we must join forces. We must join forces to fully harness its potential and manage its risks. And collaboration between private and public actors, as well as academia and civil society, is of vital importance. And that is why we are so happy to be here today and to be able to support this very important conference. Because we need forums like this to come together and discuss how we can best develop AI collaboratively, especially in areas as critical as those related to our children. This is true whether we are looking to empower them or to protect them. And inspired, I love to sing, so inspired by Whitney Houston's iconic words that I believe the children are our future. And this conference focuses on a positive digital childhood. I'm eager to share with you my perspective on what it means to develop AI with a child's perspective. However, I would like to start in the broader setting by addressing why I feel inspired and feel hope for the future when I think about AI. And that is because I firsthand and every day see the enormous potential that AI holds for Sweden, for the Nordics and the world, and how AI can be a tool to build a better future for us all, including our children. Because at Google we are truly committed to build AI that is both bold, and with that we mean that we want to make use of the opportunities that AI brings. We want to make sure that we do it in a responsible way, because there are risks and there are challenges connected with this technology. But we also want to do it together, because only when we work together, we can harness the full potential of technology. And as we see it, AI has the potential to revolutionize how we tackle global challenges. And all of us know that there are too many, unfortunately. And we sometimes speak of the technology and AI as a breakthrough, but we rather tend to think about it as that AI is a breakthrough in how we make breakthroughs. And this sounds all very meta, but what it means is that we can develop solutions, more efficient and more sustainable solutions for climate change, for combating diseases, for solving our energy challenges, and also make sure that we have food for us all. And just to give you one concrete example on what this can mean, my colleagues recently won the Nobel Prize for an innovation that is called AlphaFold. And what is AlphaFold, one might ask? And what AlphaFold does is that it predicts how proteins fold. And we are all built of proteins. Proteins are the building blocks of life. And historically, it took one PhD, 1 year, to identify, 4 years, like a whole PhD process, to identify how a set of proteins folded. But with AlphaFold, we managed to predict how over 200 million proteins folded in less than 1 year. And I'm not good at math, so I'm not even going to try to calculate how much time that saved science. But in itself, this is one example of how AI can help us make advancement in important sector. And in this specific case, it helped us find vaccine for COVID-19 in a super fast way. So these specific breakthroughs can solve complex problems and give us deeper insight in how we can tackle the challenges that we are facing. And this is just one example of how AI is transforming a field, solving a complex challenge and driving scientific advancement and economic growth. But the impact of AI goes beyond these individual breakthroughs. And in a study that we asked Implement Economics in Copenhagen to do for us, they found that AI can, that generative AI alone, you all know ChatGPT, you might know Copilot, and I hope you all know about Gemini, which is our own version of all of this. But if we saw a broader uptake of generative AI in Sweden, and we did a study from many other countries as well, we found that we could boost our GDP with 9%, and that is the equivalent of 500 to 550 billion SEK. And when I meet politicians, I ask them, what would you do if you had 500 to 550 million SEK? And that answer can, of course, vary, and it should vary. But these economic benefits comes from productivity gains, resulting from humans working with AI, that you can automate work with AI, and we can increase and we have more time for more value-creating activities. And one example that is close to our children is, for example, that teachers could spend more time teaching rather than doing administrative work. And that is, so it's the money in itself, and then it's the time that you can spend differently. So a key message is that AI is not something that will happen in the future, but it's happening right now. And embracing and educating ourselves on its potential is essential for both understanding its benefits and potential risks. So, what about the children? AI has a significant potential to impact children and adolescents by transforming education, entertainment, and social interaction. And for us, it's important that we emphasize a safe and ethical AI environment for everyone, in particularly for our children. And just as well, because I saw my time is running out, a practical example, if we go back to Gemini, and I mean, this having a safe and ethical environment and allowing kids and teenagers to thrive is true with all our services or products. But if we take Gemini as an example, we did not launch Gemini for people under 18 when the product was released because we didn't feel that we could do that in a responsible way. Instead, we decided to work with child experts and develop a version that is suitable for teens, and that is now available. And that, what we built into that was transparency, making sure that we can explain for teenagers how the tool works in their language, how we use their data. We have added tools for well-being. They are accessible across all of Google's products, but making sure that you are not spending too much time there or that you are misunderstanding what is happening. We are working with AI to make sure that content safety is at a higher level. We designed the product for privacy, that is clear for the teenager. And we also offer particular support for teenagers based on research on how they use the product itself. And this is just one example of our products and the offering that we do under something we called Growing Up with Google, that we could talk about more later. But in conclusion, I think that the work to provide every child with a safe and non-discriminatory access to digital opportunities is truly important. And we very much look forward to continuing the dialogues that starts here today, also in the future. And I want to say that we believe that it's our collective duty to protect children and empower them to thrive in the digital age. And we think also that it's best if we do that together and making responsible choices so that we can harness the power of AI and technology more broadly to ensure a safe and positive digital childhood for all.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I stressed you. It's good that you get gifts and you can breathe. It's just that I want to make sure, since we have questions from children.
Yes.
I'm like, really want to make sure that you have time to answer the question from the children. And I think you weren't here this morning. You came a bit later. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we have, they're like real children, but they're represented by avatars. Mm-hmm. And we're recording your answers, so they also get the answer. So let's see what question you will get. Oh, they're so cute.
No.
Yeah. Okay,
Hi,
let's
Sarah.
listen.
My name is Isabel and I am 10 years old. Do you think that AI is going to take over the world?
A small question.
Yes. How much time do we have?
You have like 1 minute.
Hey, Isabel. Thank you for a very interesting and very important question. My short answer is no. Technology is something that we humans build, and I think it's really important to remember that we also decide how we want to make use of that technology. And most technology can be used for good, and that's what we strive to do, and or for bad by different actors. But remembering that it's we that decide how we want to use technology and what to use it for is very important, I think, in all of the rapid developments that is happening, and that can sometimes make you feel a bit overwhelmed. But so no, AI will not take over the world. I hope you will.
Woo! Thank you so much. Great answer. Thank you, Sarah. And you will stay so we can talk with you more. Yes. If I think the audience have questions, and they can ask you directly to you during the break. Thank you so much. And now we're moving forward in our schedule to the next point, which is harnessing AI to keep children safe online. And for that, I have the honor to welcome Susanne Drakenborg. Did I pronounce it rightly?
It's okay.
It's okay. How do you pronounce it?
Drakborg.
Drakborg. See, I'm dyslexic, so sometimes it's like I at least can. You're from childhood, where you're leading Stella Polaris, that you'll tell us more about. But you also are lead of the thematic the theme for child safety online. Yes, warm welcome.
Thank you.
You have the clicker. Okay, good.
Turns out I'm also one of the people who can earn you 10 points if you find me and can find my QR code, just letting you know. So, I work for World Childhood Foundation, commonly known as Childhood. It was founded 25 years ago by Her Majesty Queen Sylvia with the focus to fight against child sexual abuse. And already back in 2002, we began funding tech companies and tech solutions that were focused on the prevention of child sexual abuse. And also in the early 2000s, we began focusing on funding research. We're very passionate about research, and that research also addressed children's safety online, which correctly I am the responsible for thematically. However, I'm here to talk about specifically one of our projects, Stella Polaris, which focuses on how we can harness AI to combat child sexual abuse. So it is a Swedish initiative focusing on Swedish stakeholders, because we didn't want to get we didn't want hubris or get all overwhelmed with addressing the world. So the idea was, what can we achieve in Sweden with the opportunities and the challenges that exist? Because we know that we are so far from what is possible to achieve with the help of AI and other technologies. We began looking at how AI could combat child sexual abuse back in 2019, and that is how this 4-year project began. We received funding from the Swedish Postal Code Lottery, and we are now in our final year. So I'll be giving you some concrete examples of what we've achieved and some semi-painful lessons learned. Within the project, we both address innovative AI solutions. Those are the ones I'll be presenting to you today. But we're also very passionate about everyday AI tools, because essentially, the stakeholders who are already working to prevent child sexual abuse and to promote child safety online in general, we need to become more effective and efficient. And many of us are working as if it's the early 2000s, I mean, technically speaking, administratively speaking. So that is also part of the project. But again, I'm not going to bore you with the best prompts for ChatGPT. The aims that we have within the project are more solutions, more actors getting involved, AI experts, tech companies, stakeholders that don't realize that they actually have a very important role to play. More partnerships forged between actors who didn't work with this before and those who have the expertise when it comes to child safety online. And again, we're very passionate about research and researchers, so we have also had a special focus on that group, and I'll get back to that. So one thing we emphasize, whether it's Stella Polaris or in general, is the need to address child safety online and child sexual abuse before something goes wrong. And of course, we also need solutions while something might be happening. Take grooming, for example. And something that a lot of focus is placed on, in a sense, unfortunately, is what happens afterwards. Of course, that's incredibly important, but we all live in a world where we wish that no child was ever the victim of child sexual abuse. So all the resources shouldn't be focusing on after the fact, but rather also more at prevention. There you go. And also detection, and finally response. And what we've seen is that there are a lot of AI tools out there. They've been used for years now, actually, but the vast, vast majority are focused on the response part. So, well, I should have had this in the beginning, I suppose, but the rest of the presentation, the structure, is I'll give you a little bit of background on AI and the project, our work specifically, some of the solutions that we've helped develop and support, and then the lessons learned. When it comes to the AI field today, you all know a lot is happening very quickly, and a lot has already happened, so to say. So as I said, for years there have been various AI tools out there, mainly used by law enforcement agencies, that use AI to, for example, go through vast, vast amounts of images to try to identify faces and to organize them, etc. There is, however, still a lack of awareness for the potential uses of AI, which is why I'm very excited that I will be facilitating one of the workshops this afternoon, where we will discuss the potential of AI. So we're just going to set aside all our fears for a while and just look at the potential that exists. And what we're noticing is that there are a lot of people who don't understand, they can't really see the use cases, the possible use cases that exist, what high quality data exists, how AI could be applicable to either extracting the data or analyzing it. And this also goes for experts within child safety online, that from a research perspective or implementation perspective, they don't always understand the potential of AI. And that comes back to the lack of multidisciplinary teams, which is something we work on. So we bring AI experts together with child rights experts, and we have become kind of a bridge, figuring out where they're using the same language, but they're not understanding each other, or whether using the completely different terminologies and very clearly don't understand each other. But the beautiful thing is that we always see that they want to understand. There is a lot of emotion and encouragement within the group to really try to reach solutions. As for AI, you're all aware of the multimodal large language models, which are increasingly popular. We also see that there's fine-tuning of smaller models, which is very good, especially when you're using it and you want to implement a solution on something more niche. And also from a perspective of where, for ethical reasons, for legal reasons, you're not able to use one of the bigger models that might be publicly available. And so you can actually use fine-tuning of smaller models to possibly solve a problem. And when it comes to generative AI, something, unfortunately, that we're seeing, that we've been seeing for quite a while now, is the use of generative AI to produce child sexual abuse material. That's what CSAM stands for. So someone said that essentially what we're facing is looking for a needle in a land of haystacks, because the law enforcement is becoming increasingly overwhelmed by child sexual abuse material that has been generated with the use of AI, and is problematic in many ways, because first of all, you have the issue of victim identification. If it's actual physical child sexual abuse, you want to be able to identify that child, but right now there's so much child sexual abuse material that looks realistic enough for law enforcement to not know whether it's been AI generated or not. And that's just going to increase. And then, well, we hosted a webinar on the topic, so we have proven that you can spend an hour talking about it, and I won't, but it's very problematic. And briefly, what we do practically is we conduct seminars and workshops and webinars for various stakeholders. We publish reports and studies, and we have 3 reports coming out, one on data, one on financial transactions of live-streamed material, and one on police interviews and the role AI might play. We host a knowledge center online, and we support pilot projects for innovative tools. And that is what I'll present to you now. This first one, the image that you can see, is a cluster. It is a cluster of users on a darknet forum, which was taken down by German police a few years back. It was called Boys Town. At the time, it was the largest darknet forum in the world focusing on child sexual abuse. It had around over 400,000 registered users. And of course, it's quite overwhelming with all of this data for law enforcement. Like, where do you begin? Obviously, they've identified the administrators, but then what do you do with over 400,000 registered accounts? So the hypothesis that a Swedish company, Periscope, had was that perhaps AI could help cluster all of these users in something that was more easily to navigate. So they came to us, we thought it was a good idea, we provided funding and support, we discussed that the solution is also very relevant for research in perpetrator prevention, perpetrator psychology. And so they came up with, well, this is an early version, I just like it aesthetically. It's actually 32 dimensions, which is not visible here. But what they saw was that there was a clustering. As always, there's also a black box involved. You don't really know what's happening. But they could see that the administrators were clustered almost on top of each other, which made sense. And when they looked at other clusters, they could see that many of them are linguistically clustered. They're clustered based on the frequency of communication, etc. But it's also fascinatingly clustered in the content of the communication. So one thing that stuck with me was that there was a group of 5 people clustered very closely together, but they had exchanged very few messages. So you might wonder, why are they clustered together? But when you then look at the messages, you see that they are referring to communication amongst themselves that is happening elsewhere. And that, of course, is highly relevant for, say, law enforcement, because that heightens the risk of them having secret communication that might involve child sexual abuse. And so once this exists, this clustering algorithm result, and Periscope has access to it, and it's also accessible to researchers who want to study darknet forums, and they might be able to access it through agreements with law enforcement, but then would be overwhelmed with all of the data. So that is one example. Then we have an AI tool called Fronta, which is developed together with 5 Swedish organizations, relatively small, but going together, they're mighty. They all provide online chat support services to children. And after one of our seminars, they realized, oh wow, we actually own a lot of data that is relevant, and put together, we have a lot of data, these 5 organizations that were collaborating. And so they found an AI consultancy firm in Sweden. We funded and supported the development. And so now there is actually an AI tool that they all have access to that helps them see. It provides trend analysis, it provides an overview of all of the conversations, it helps them with quality control, it helps them to coordinate, etc. So right now we're in the last phases of the project so that they will go from evidence readiness level 7 to 9. Oh, there it goes. Then a lovely project, Project LOD, not just lovely because of the name. We're implementing it together with Interpol, their DevOps division, and together with Swedish police, we hosted a hackathon quite recently in Stockholm. Project LOD is about developing AI to provide text descriptions of child sexual abuse material. Because not only is it tough for law enforcement and for hotlines to view this material, but to then have to spend time and effort describing it, putting words to what you're seeing is not just time consuming, but also emotionally extremely draining. So just within 5 days of them doing the hackathon in Stockholm, and we were present throughout, they came up with a working first model of this. And it's part of other global initiatives discussing the terminology and whatnot, but it's a fantastic example of the potential of AI. I mentioned research, that we're very passionate about it. We made a baseline in 2021 in Sweden. We contacted all universities and university colleges. God bless Sweden for being a small country. And we got answers, namely that there is no research in Sweden addressing AI and child sexual abuse. We widened the question to, is there any research addressing AI and child protection? Answer was no. Is there anyone in any university course mentioning AI and child protection just as an example, even though it might not be the focus of the course? The answer was no. So we had a beautiful baseline of 0. And so we began talking to a lot of AI researchers all over the country. They invited us to hold seminars in 2022, 2023, and we gathered research examples from across the world. I'll give you, there's not a lot, but there is some. And we presented it to them and showed that within different fields of AI, many different fields, there is the potential to do something. And we need long-term research and research collaboration. So we also organized a roundtable with researchers. They mentioned funding. There's no research without funding. We went to the biggest funders in Sweden for research. And they all said what we thought they would say, namely, of course we'd fund this. We would love to fund this. And it falls within the research calls that already exist, because it is a public health issue. It is AI. It is, child protection or psychology. So the researchers shouldn't wait for there to be specific calls addressing this. They should just realize that it falls under the research calls that already exist. And it was wonderful to be able to convey those responses to the research community. And as such, I'll begin with some of the research examples we showed them, and then a practical research example that is happening now in Sweden. In Norway, they're doing a talking child avatar to help police train how they're supposed to do child interviews, because obviously you can't train on children. And with the help of AI, you can do good training with realistic avatars that could also adapt to various ages and various, let's say, whether a child speaks a certain language, whether a child has certain disabilities, etc. An adorable little robot dog that actually wasn't yet using AI capabilities, but the researcher very much said that they saw the opportunity of how AI could be used for addressing PTSD combined with robotics. And say hand identification using knuckle recognition, very important when it comes to child sexual abuse material where you might only see the hand of the perpetrator. What we have right now in Sweden is a wonderful new collaborative initiative between Karolinska University and Örebro. So it's with researchers that are working on perpetrator prevention using motivational interviewing at Karolinska. This is a world-unique, fantastic project, but it needs to be able to scale eventually. And so the researchers at Örebro, after a lot of conversations and meetings, realized that there is enough data and opportunity to develop and test an AI model. And it's incredibly exciting. I could talk for an hour about it. We also had a research convening with Oxford Internet Institute, where Thomas is from, and where we also addressed the role of AI and how AI can help further research and extract data, etc., but also help to research the use of AI and how it affects children. So quickly, lessons learned. How many minutes do I have left? 1? 2, not bad. Lessons learned, data, data, data. It's incredibly important. People don't necessarily understand what data there is, if it's high quality. We've had 1 year or more of trauma trying to navigate that and get this data report out. But all I can say is the sooner you start addressing data, understanding data, talking about data, the happier you will be in the long term. Don't be afraid to focus. It's easy to get overwhelmed and people will drag you in different directions and you might feel a lot of pressure from yourself or others. Just focus on one thing, even if it feels small, and just try to address that one thing. Try to keep up to date, stay up to date. Good luck, but try. Déjà rencontré. It means that a lot of the challenges and the issues we're addressing when it comes to AI, legal uncertainties, bureaucracy, biases, financial constraints, ethical challenges, privacy issues, these are issues that we should have dealt with years ago. And these are issues that are affecting us and our society for ages, and it's absurd that we're allowing so many decisions to be made without actually knowing what we're basing it on. And when it comes to biases, bias in AI is based on the fact that we're all biased. That's where it's taking it from, and we've been allowing it for far too long. So I would say AI is just making all of these challenges painfully obvious. And finally, lunch. And with that, I mean, try to find people who know what you need to know, like AI experts if you're not an AI expert, and just have lunch together and try to brainstorm how you might help each other. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I have many questions to follow up, but we have one question for a child that we'll take. But before that, since we just had lunch and been sitting, I think it's good so we are able to listen a little bit better. If everybody just stands up and take a deep breath, maybe reconnect again with your golden spine and stretch, or maybe I usually do like this to get my energy up, to move it up a bit. Yeah. And now you can just turn around and just wave at someone. So just like, hi. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Now, let's see what question you get.
Hello, Suzanne. My name is Isaac and I am 11 years old. I get that AI can help stop things like sexual harassment online, but can it also help kids who've already been hurt? Aren't they the ones who need the most help?
And as I said previously, I don't think it's a question of who needs the most help, but we are spending way too many resources on after the fact and only reacting instead of being proactive and focusing on prevention.
Yeah.
Can you tell I'm not very good at talking with kids?
I will try to. No, but it's the thing. But he didn't listen to the question before. But you're really good at giving lectures and explaining things, and maybe just to try to explain it to a child that it's important to do things to prevent things from happening, so then they don't get hurt and need help. And of course, we need to help the children that get hurt so they can heal properly. But most of all, we also need to focus on preventing all of the children online to getting hurt in different ways.
What you said.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We have time maybe for one question at least from the audience. We have one here, the microphone. She's finding and running around. She's getting a lot of exercise. Thank you so much.
Hello. Thank you so much for a great presentation. I heard that you said that the legal enforcement and everyone working to prevent online sexual abuse are sort of overwhelmed by the challenges in differentiating AI-generated images and real ones. Yeah. What are the abilities of AI itself to filter this, and in what way, if you know any example that it's already being applied?
I wouldn't go so far as to say that, it's not being applied within law enforcement yet, as far as I understand. But for example, Intel, they have a tool that is able to show whether certain videos have been AI generated, but they also depend on enough skin of a person to be visible in the video. And then there are various tools that that claim to be able to show whether an image has been AI generated, but there are a lot of false positives. That's the problem. And for you to understand also realistic images of child sexual abuse material, some of them are the real ones are very gritty, and it's like, it's not highly lit studio photos. It's very like gritty camera photos, etc. So that's why it's relatively easy to generate realistic versions of those. So we're not talking realistic versions yet of children that are well lit, etc. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have, no, you get some gifts before you
thank you.
From the thing. And another round of applause. Thank you. Now also soon I will present on stage the next speaker that we will have the privilege to listen to before we have a little bit longer coffee break. But before we get on, also just to make sure that you keep using your voices because you've been listening so much, I will just give you like 3 minutes to say hi to your neighbor or someone behind you and just share some reflections about everything that you've been hearing or something that pops up. And just take in mind that you have 1.5 minutes each. So if someone speaks for 2 minutes, then it's a bit shorter for the other one. Okay, welcome. Dear friends, 3 minutes pass quickly when you're having fun. And I'm always delighted that you can't stop talking to each other. It feels like it might even, yeah. But I think if I continue speaking, and maybe you should start running up your conversation, so just press pause, and you will continue to talk more during the longer break that is coming up soon, where we also have coffee. I mean, like, in the afternoon, I get like this, I need coffee, but we will have it soon. Before that, I've been looking forward to listening to our next speaker, who is from Denmark, and she's taken, yeah, good. Please give her a warm welcome. This is Natalie Arendt. How do you pronounce it in
Natalie Arendt Eriksson.
Thank
it's
you
both
so much.
French, Icelandic, and everything in between, so it's difficult in any language.
It's
but
beautiful.
yeah, then my name nonetheless.
Yeah, and you're from the Rädda Youth Council in Denmark. Exactly. One more warm applaud. I leave this here.
So, hi everyone. Hope you're doing good. As I just said, my name is Natalie Arendt Eriksson, and I'm the current chairwoman of the Data Ethic Youth Council, or in Danish known as Dataetisk Ungeråd. The council lies under the organization Dansk IT, who is funding our work, so always a thanks to those guys. I'm going to spend the next 10-15 minutes talking a bit about what we do, who we are, and some of the challenges that we're currently focusing our time and energy on. So we are a mix of young adults who come from very different academically backgrounds, but we all found some meaning in data ethics along our studies, our private life, or our careers, and wanted to converse with others who found that as a really, really important thing, especially considering how rapid digitalization is happening in our society today. So we are currently around 20 members. Some of us have studied really tech-focused educations and are computer scientists or study artificial intelligence and machine learning, and others like myself go to law school, so it's a bit different angle, and some study politics, social studies, film and media. We have quite a bit of a good mix. And we do our work in different work groups. So we have a political work group which is focusing on doing written contributions. I put a few of our recent articles on the slide here. And they also do focus on making recommendations and policies. Earlier this year, just before the summer, we introduced, I think, 13 new recommendations. I translated and put in 2 of them right here. One was to introduce a tech week in elementary schools and high schools to help enhance younger generations' understanding of technology. And another was to introduce a systematic data ethic risk assessment before implementing big and powerful technologies, such as AI, which has been a good focus here today. Then we have a workshop, a work group, which have previously done a lot of workshops, mostly in universities and different schools, but are now starting to do a bit more fun, creative stuff, like podcasts and different teaching materials, and maybe even a game is coming up. And then we have the more focused on partnerships and representing the council work group, which is, as you can see, me in a debate here and standing here today, which want to talk to anyone who really wants to listen about what we do. And I'm going to stay here. And the council, we don't have a written framework for the work that we do, so we actually decide mostly on a season basis what we want to focus on. But I do think we have a few fundamental pillars of our work that I will just briefly tell you about. The first one being we worked for a responsible digitalization. It is ourselves and the ones who come after will have to suffer the decisions that are currently being made. And while I do think we can always try to undo what has been done, we would much rather be included in the conversation that is currently happening and try to have an influence and impact on those decisions while we're making them. Then another thing is our work to enhance the younger generation's understanding of technology and introduce them to data ethics. We really want to encourage everyone to ask questions and to consider when, where, and how you want to share your data, because you are making an informed choice. You know what consequences it can have, and I really think that ethics need to, and especially data ethics, need to come down to the youngers as well. And finally, a topic I find myself speaking a lot about in recent debates also is this fundamental misconceptions that my generation and the younger ones are just naturally adept at handling every technology we get thrown in our faces. Because, as you say, we have been growing up with iPads, iPhones, and computers, so we just know it all, don't we? And I think that is a greatly overestimating of our capabilities as one who isn't very tech good myself. I think there's a very big difference in being used to playing computer games and knowing how to navigate all these different mandatory platforms the public authorities throw in our faces. And I also know that people generally think that it's the elder group who is the one slowing us down. It's the elders who can't keep up. And I think recent research done by both Kommunernes Landsforening and Justitia has shown that there's around 20% of the Danish population who can't keep up, and that group is really diverse. It's both the elder, it's people who are socially disadvantaged, and they are young people who simply cannot navigate all these systems we have to. And then I promised to speak a bit about some of the challenges the younger generation is facing, which is a really big question to handle in a few minutes, but I do want to mention a few examples of some of the things that we are looking into. So the first, which I think probably has been a topic today, is addictive algorithms. I think most of us have probably tried scrolling a bit too long on Instagram to get those dopamine kicks for all the funny videos our algorithm is showing us, and I think that the younger, especially the children, are especially exposed to that, who might not have obligations in the real world in the same way we do, that forces us to let it go. So that's something we have been discussing and looking into, and in close connection with that, harmful content on especially social media. We have been doing, in the spring, especially visits to different social media platforms like Google, TikTok, and Meta, and discuss some of their policies for removing harmful content, which is a very difficult dilemma sometimes when you have the freedom of expression and harmful content, and what should you take down and not. Especially, I think it's even more difficult if you have an age limit. Let's say you have to be 15 to use the platform, but you do know that 11 and 12-year-olds are using it and just lying about their age. What content should you remove then? So I do think it's a very important dialogue to have, and it's a very complicated and important topic to discuss. And lastly, I don't know how much time I have left. Perfect. I want to talk about an issue I've been looking into a lot more recently, which is this discrepancy between being a digital adult and a legal adult. I don't know if it applies to other Scandinavian countries, but in Denmark, you are a digital adult, as I call it, when you're 15. Then you have different mandatory systems you have to access, to use, to especially e-books, to communicate with public authorities. And when you're 18, you're a legal adult. So you have these 3 years where you're a bit in a limbo. And I have a little case that happened a few years back, I think, that would like to show how this is problematic. So when you're 15, or even you're a digital adult, and you can get fines. Let's say you forget to turn in your library book on time, as this was the case, and you receive your fine in e-books. But it's not everyone who knows they have an account on e-books or know how to use it. So it might just lie there for, let's say, 10 days. Because when 10 days has passed, you have automatically acknowledged your fine if you do not protest it. So now you have a fine, you have acknowledged the fine, you don't know you have a fine, so you don't pay the fine. Okay, what happens then? If anybody has tried to pay a little too late, you know, late fees, more late fees, another fee for every kind of thing, and it just keeps going for 3 years. Now you turn 18, and when you turn 18, the collection agency service can contact you through a lawyer and tell you about all this debt you have accumulated to the state. How nice, what a great birthday present. And that's because these things aren't aligned. I think I know it isn't just the younger people who don't know how to use e-books, it's a common problem, but I do think there is something about these 3 years that can pretty easily be solved if you kind of align these things so it matches your rights and obligations for being a digital citizen at 15 and being a legal adult at 18. So that's something I know the council is going to be looking a bit more into and making probably some recommendations on. I know I want to do that. So, and with that, I think, with that positive note, I'll thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natalie, for sharing so much knowledge and important perspectives for us to be reminded of. Now, the main thing for me is, now you have a question.
How nice.
Well, it's always like, let's see what the question is.
Hi, Natalie. I am Tilda and I am 16 years old. Most adults don't understand how dangerous AI can be or how it can be used. How are they supposed to get kids to understand if they don't have the knowledge themselves? We can even use it to cheat in school without them knowing.
Oh, I love
a very simple question.
I love this question. And thank you so much for the question. I think a lot of the work we do is especially minded children to learn them about technology and ethics. So they might not choose to cheat in school even though they have the option. But I also think that we have a purpose to reach out to adults and especially parents, because there's a dialogue there that isn't really happening, and it isn't successful if it is. Because I think that this general lack of knowledge about what are the kids using technology for and what do parents know they're using it for, it doesn't really add up. So yeah, I definitely think that there is a responsibility to teach broader, both to children themselves and teach them about ethics, and to the parents.
And to have it. I also, maybe you already answered, but if I listen, from what I heard, she also asked this, like, how come the adults, they don't know more than the children do about it? And how do you think that children or young people should relate to that sometimes adults pretend to know a lot about AI, but maybe don't? How should they manage that?
I think I do know some organizations who work towards focus on both adults and children, where they can come up together and learn about technology. I know Coding Pirates do that, which is a really incredible work. And I think there should be broader access for everyone to learn what it is and what is happening online and how to use it. Because I do think that it's either one or the other who really knows what's going on, and it's very problematic. I do agree.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. Let me see if I can try to summarize everything that you share in a way that maybe a young person or a child also could understand. And it would be that also, again, like someone highlighted earlier this morning, of the importance of having a dialogue between children and adults around technology, AI, and digital spaces. It's important to understand each other. And also the good sides about learning about technology together, and to try to find places and either learn together maybe at home by playing or learning, but they're also reach out to organizations and others that offers opportunity for children and adults to learn together. Did I miss something?
No, I think you got it.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have a question from the audience? Not right now, or maybe you come up with a question and you have the opportunity to asking during the coffee break. So now it's time for the coffee break, and you get some gifts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and an applause also for a great presentation and great answers. And also a reminder that we will have this Mingla gaming until 4 o'clock. So now it's an opportunity again, if you want to try to win, to connect with more people. You know, some of us that have 10 points, we need to have our badges on, and we will announce the winners a bit later. But have a great coffee break, and especially take this opportunity to interact with each other. So thank you so much. Okay, dear friends, the time has come to gather again. And now we have filled with new contacts, new ideas, new connections in so many ways. More coffee, something sweet to eat, and you're getting ready to listen. It's good to be filled up. Sometimes we're going to listen to things that maybe are not as playful as some other presentations earlier today. But we have, as you know, we're on a tight schedule, and I still appreciate that it's hard for you to stop speaking, but I also appreciate that we all try to take a seat so we can go forward in the program. We have one more speaker that we're going to listen to, and then we will have another set of 3 parallel workshops, and this time focusing on AI. And after that, we will round up with a dynamic and very vision-orientated, and also maybe, hopefully, a bit magical panel discussion by the end. We will also announce the winner of the Mingla competition and some other tips before you leave. Now that all have settled and the volume has gone down a little bit, I can also turn down my volume a little bit. It's a great honor for me to present the next speaker from Save the Children. This time is from our neighbor, this is a Nordic conference, as we're all gathered, but this time it's from Denmark. And it's Bodil Liv Holm, she's head of digital abuse protection at Save the Children in Denmark. Please give her a warm applause.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to give you a little insight into our newest survey on digital abuse in Denmark that we just made. I have been invited here today to just give you a brief introduction. And I only have 10 minutes, so it's going to be a quick rundown on the most important takeaways from this new survey. And the new data I'm going to show you is based on a representative study in which we have asked more than 4,000 children and young people in the age from 9 to 17 about their experiences with digital violations and unpleasant online encounters. And the first takeaway point I want to share with you is that in 2024, it is the rule rather than the exception that children are exposed to digital violations and unpleasant experiences online. And to be more specific, it's actually 69% of children and young people in Denmark have had one or more unpleasant experiences online over the past year. That means it's almost 7 out of 10. And I don't know about you, but when I saw this number for the first time a couple of months ago, when I just started in Save the Children Denmark, I was very surprised and also a little bit horrified, to be honest, because I think I knew that things were going bad, but not that it was this bad. And I was also surprised about how fast things are going in the wrong direction. And that leads me to the next takeaway point, that we are headed in the wrong direction. We see a significant increase from 2021, where we made a similar study. And at that point, it was only 42% of children that were exposed to digital violations and unpleasant experiences online. And that means that we have actually seen an increase in, I think it's about 27 percentage points or something like that. I think we can all agree that that's a lot, and it's going fast in the wrong direction. So what lies behind these 69%? This slide show us, or this figure show the various types of violations and unpleasant experiences children have encountered, and it also illustrate the development since the last survey in 2021. I will dive into some of these numbers in a moment, but just to point out a few. For example, it is 36% of children and young people who have experienced being contacted by someone they did not want to be in contact with. In 2021, this number was only 18%. So that's doubled up in just 3 years. Also, 32% report that they have seen something violent, photos or videos that they did not want to see. And as I said before, I will dive into some of the other figures, but first I want to give the word to a girl from the survey who is trying to explain some of this. She is saying, there was a video on TikTok with a girl sitting in a shower And then there were 3 men who were cutting her head off until her head turned completely blue and came off. Or the guy who shot himself in the head live. Someone also blended a cat alive. It's kind of uncomfortable. I was just scrolling. I thought, why would they do that? Then I scrolled on. I didn't really know what to do. The takeaway point number 3 that I want to give you is that we see a disturbing increase of some digital violations that can have a really serious harmful impact on children. 1 in 4 children have been contacted by an unknown adult online. 30% of them experience the adult sending them unpleasant images. And 12% of them experience that the adult wanted them to do things they didn't want to do. For example, sending pictures of their body. And for me, this clearly underscores that our children's online lives are neither safe nor secure. And just as a thought experiment, imagine if this was happening in the physical world. And I think we can all agree on that we would never allow things like that happening in the physical world. So yeah, it's very concerning, I think. This is another girl from the survey putting words into what she had experienced. She said that I had Snapchat once. Some random person added me and I added them back, like just for fun. And then there were some like unpleasant photos, like nudes and stuff. 9% have experienced private or intimate images being shared without consent. And these photos or videos are largely shared by children and young people that they already know. 10% have experienced being threatened or extorted online, and that's almost a double since 2021. These threats and extortion typically come from strangers who the children or the young people don't know in advance. The next question is, how do children react on these experiences? And the answer is that they react pretty differently, but many of them get negatively affected. 48% of children who have experienced these things say that they have been negatively affected of it. They have a lot of different kind of emotions about it. Some of them feel anger, some of them get tummy ache, they feel humiliated. Some of them even start to feel lonely, and some of them also find themselves having difficulties concentrating at school. Also, a bit worrying is that it's only 32% of them that it's 32% of them that say that they did nothing when they had the unpleasant experience. That means that almost 1 in a third didn't do anything about it. They didn't tell anyone, they didn't receive any help, they just kept this to themselves. The last data I want to show you is this one, and it says something about different kind of groups of children and young people who are more vulnerable to being exposed to these things. And as you can see, it's among others, it is children and young people who are feeling lonely, and also children and young people who are struggling with their well-being in different kinds of ways. that was the last one. If you want to dive more into this, you can scan this QR code and you will get a link to the full English version of the report. And I will also just encourage you to reach out to me or some of my colleagues if you want to learn more about this study, and also if you want to learn more about what we in Save the Children Denmark are doing about these things. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That was it.
Thank you. Thank you for a very clear and yet not so easy to digest presentation of a report, but very important. And also it's an important perspective to take with us to the workshops that we'll have soon. Sometimes even when I listen to this, I wish the world was different, but we can only when we really deal with facts and not look away to facts, it's easier to find the proper solutions, but that you already know. And now it's time for the workshops coming up. Again, we have 3 workshops. In one, it will be in Slack, the butcher room number 1. What risks do we see for children with AI, and what regulations or other measures could safeguard against this risk? This will be facilitated by Lori Sundberg from Save the Children Finland. The ones that will stay here would meet Susanne Drakborg again from Childhood Foundation, where you will discuss what are the potential benefits of AI and how can we use the technology to promote children's rights and well-being. And in the veterinary chamber, it's the third one that will be facilitated by Rebecca Kronfeldt from Save the Children in Denmark. And how is AI being used for sextortion, and how can the same technology be used to prevent it together and support victims? So we will have the workshops until 4 o'clock, where we will gather here again for our final panel and roundup of this day. So please choose your workshop and also find the energy to engage in them together. So welcome. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, dear friends, this amazing day is coming to an end, and it would be beautiful if you can dance your way back to your chair to get some energy also for this final session. And it was very inspiring to go around the workshops and see the different methods that were used for dialogue and interaction and the engagement also in the workshops. And I think we had a high level of engagement all day, and a sign of that is that people can't stop talking even when the problem is starting again. But I will please ask you to round up your dialogues, even if you're in the back of the room, so we can continue with this, with the program. And now we have reached the final, like the closing kind of dialogue here on stage. We will also announce the winner of the Mingla competition, and just some sum-ups before we leave here, also in a spirit of togetherness, and see how we can move things forward in collaboration. With that, now the volume has settled. It always takes a little bit of time, but it's amazing. Okay, now it's my honor to welcome a great panel. 2 of you have met before, and another one that you have met and mingled within the room. She also gave a lot of points. So please give a warm welcome to Thomas Hackman, Paulina Olsson, och Theo Toresson. Warm welcome. No, you can stand up. Yeah, and jump, so you keep the energy up. Yeah, well, that's why if you sit down, even sometimes you relax a little bit more, then the dynamics is not as good. And you're going to share the microphone.
Oh, so...
Oh, you have, sorry, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You were like, but why? We have one. Okay, good. You are, yes, sorry.
This is slightly cooler.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
one.
it's like the old school. You can...
It's like a
You can drop the mic. I can't drop the mic.
Okay. Wow, welcome. I think we're going to start with you, Paulina, since you're also just for everyone that hasn't met you yet, but I think most in the room have. But you're a play, media, and social emotional learning expert, which I can affirm. I knew you for a couple of years. And you're also the co-founder and CEO of Peppy Agency. And I think I will give you an opportunity just to very, very briefly, I know it's hard because it's something that you love, but describe Peppy Agency. We start with that very, very shortly.
Okay, so we're a consultancy agency that use our insight from social and emotional learning and child psychology and translating that into helping brands, NGOs, companies develop play experiences for children and families that are considering their well-being, considering their mental health, and in general, creating healthy play experiences.
Wow, thank you. And I love your T-shirt that said empathy, it's the new black. It's very, cool. Very clear. And with that foundation, which is a kind of a value, that empathy is the new black, I like to playfully actually ask both Paulina and Paul, and you have a different kind of mic, so you will get a different kind of question, I think. We'll see. But maybe now, did I say Paul?
Yeah.
I was like, what's happening? It's like my brain is, yeah. You didn't even react, like, it was like,
Paul, Paulina.
So sorry. Thomas, yes. Maybe if we start with a question with you, I was thinking if we play around a little bit, and if you're a magician and you had like a magic wand, how do you pronounce it? Wand?
Yeah, wand.
Wand, thank you. And you can like magically create a solution. It could be AI or something else that makes internet more aligned with your values, but also a safer and better place for children. What would you do? Easy question.
Do you want to kick it off?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Oh.
Okay.
What a question.
I think you have the answer.
If anything was possible, what would need to happen to make the internet a safe space for children? What I'm just thinking of immediately is safeguarding needs to happen at a much earlier stage. So it's kind of what I said when I got the question from the AI-generated child, that, it shouldn't just be the companies kind of leading the charge. And what I'm thinking here of, and yeah, maybe that's relevant because we are in Sweden. This is a story about how the seat belt got invented, with cars. It took many, many years, 20, 30 years, with cars driving around before seat belts were implemented. And it wasn't done by the car companies, right? It's actually done by a researcher from Vattenfall, right? It's a Swedish energy company. They were researching on fatalities at work, and they found out they don't happen at the construction sites, they happen when driving there. And then this guy came up with the seatbelt, gave it to Volvo. Volvo patented it, the seatbelt, the 3-pin seatbelt, because it worked. And then at some point, they put it in all cars. Wow. But other car manufacturers around the world gave it as an optional feature. And this is, I think, my point. Safety should not be an optional feature that's part of a product lineup from different companies, right? Even then, when it was an optional feature, people didn't buy it. Even when it became mandatory by law, and we're talking 50 years after the car was invented, people didn't use the seatbelt until it became law to actually wear one.
Yeah,
right?
And I only used it when it started beeping.
That's the thing.
Beep, beep. Yeah, then I'm like, okay,
so all to say is that companies might talk about safety being really important, but it won't be adopted and it won't be implemented by just companies alone. you need the goodwill of this kind of researcher, you need the goodwill of Volvo to give away the patent for free. And this is what I meant with AI should be part in the public domain. And it shouldn't just be in these walled gardens, because then we're going to get safety as luxury features for the ones who can afford it. And we're not going to, you know, build the safe internet for children that you want in the future. Okay, long answer.
Long answer, but it gave a foundation. I think Paulina can spit. And I just need to clarify, I'm not a driver. I always sit in the side. I don't drive. So that's why I didn't use the belt. I always sit in the back. And then I felt, then I don't need the safety belt. But now it starts beeping even in the back. So everybody's included in the safety, even the rebels like me. With that said, Paulina, if you were a magician.
I had the magic wand. Well, I totally echo what you say in terms of, I think it's a brilliant vision to have. And my answer to build on that would come from the child's perspective and thinking of myself when I was a child. And I think if I had the magic wand, I would want everyone to design with empathy in mind. And for me, that means making kids feel seen and heard, that we empower them with the tools they need to navigate the fucked up world we created for them before we can have the safety in place. So I think there are steps that we need to take, and my magic wand is hoping we can do that, that gives kids a seat at the table already now, and where we think about what life stages are they in, what identity are they exploring, like Toka Boka talked about this morning, what's important for them in self-expression, in diversity and inclusion, to help build a positive online space for them and to exclude the hater, like toxicity and such, while working on the safety aspects that we are responsible for.
Thank you. And I was thinking, you, Theo, like also from a psychologist, but also say the children's perspective, if you spin along with this kind of creation, so you co-create here on stage live, what do you think, what kind of collaborations will be needed to make this vision possible? If you agree with the vision, start with that.
I do.
Okay.
I think collaboration is key. I think there are several ways that I imagine collaboration between different sectors when it comes to this issue. So the first one would be when it comes to, I mainly work with gaming, so I'm going to do gaming examples now, but some of it is applicable to social media as well. But when it comes to sort of the gaming companies, once upon a time, say Riot Games, for example, League of Legends, they invented a really popular game, and it just grows and grows, and eventually they find themselves responsible for like a minor or even major society, which they did not set up to do that. I mean, they are doing their best, most likely, maybe from a moral standpoint, it's the good thing to do, but probably as well from an economic standpoint, because when people are behaving badly at their platforms, people leave the game as well.
Yeah,
so,
I'm gonna be very if you like answer the question first and then broaden it up, just to sum it up.
Of course, of course. Okay, so so a concrete example here of collaboration is that like they should not be the ones responsible for these parts. Like they can detect the issues, but we also need to collaborate when it comes to, for example, using data to understand, is a child being groomed, is a child depressed, is there an offense being taking place? They can only work within the boundaries of their game. Like they can punish behavior and they can reward behavior, but they cannot help the underlying causes. So this is an example where they need to collaborate with, for example, NGOs or public sector, because we have the mandate. They do not have the public's mandate to actually provide interventions, and they should not be doing that because that's not what they're good at.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. Now I'm with you.
Yeah.
And also, if we spin off with this great example that you give with the belt, that if I understood you rightly, Vattenfall was the one inventing and then gave it to Volvo. Is it like a whole Swedish thing we have missed?
I thought it was common knowledge. Like,
I didn't know about it.
I didn't get taught this in the history books.
Wow, you should. Thank you, Thomas, for But also, if we spin off, maybe there is a Sweden invention here that will make the internet or like the digital spaces much safer for children that we are co-creating here. But like you were saying, collaboration is needed to make that expansion or to make that actually be there for everyone. What do you think more it's needed, Thomas, to make that vision real and to actually have a positive impact, like the belt actually has, since it's saving lives?
Ooh, concretely? Yeah, I want to echo what Theo is saying about kind of like this a lot, sometimes we focus too much on the technology, right? And it's kind of like technological determinism. The problem is created by the technology, or here's a problem, let's save it with technology. And what you're saying is like, no, holistically, like there are different actors with different mandates, with different things that they want to do. So yes, a gaming company is not also gonna be your therapist or something like that. And you know, the same with AI. So I think it's just, that's where the answer is. Get the right people, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and diverse, to like include all perspectives and solutions and ways of tackling problems from different angles around the table, because the problem that is exacerbated on the technological platform will not end there. That is part of that person's life. So it needs to also, you know, be looked at more than, you know, what just happens on that, in that space, but bigger. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But, and also I was thinking, like from my perspective, sometimes it's like I want to Control, Alt, delete some things and start over, and it's not possible. Not even in my life. Sometimes I wish, oh, that didn't happen. I was like, no, I just have to face it and rise to awareness in one way to make it better. And even with the challenges that we've been discussing here today and the possibilities, even if we want a system change, we still need to create that change within the system. What would you say, Paulina, from your perspective, all the things that are like, would you prioritize also if you had a mind? It's like, I would like strengthening this. This will like create the most positive outcome for children.
I think so. I think technology and the digital spaces, it's just been a massive transformation within such few years if we talk about the wider audience use of it. And I think if I do a parallel, I think about the physical playgrounds where there are rules on you cannot decide to design a slide that doesn't have these safety measurements because we want to protect the kids when they're at the playground. So there are like already rules you have to follow as a designer of that kind of play experience. And similarly, we need to have that foundational framework or rules. And for us to be able to do so, I think what you spoke about this morning, like we need to come together and look at research from a research perspective. What is that? And we need the companies to come in and say, here's the data. If we talk about gaming is one thing, but also just communities online in general. And that's also a playground. And it would be interesting to work with the companies, to work with legislation, protection, kids, families, and to see what's the foundation that we need to have in place so that the playgrounds will look like our physical ones, where kids will take risks, kids will get hurt, physically hurt more so than maybe emotionally and when that happens, where do we turn and what can we do? So yeah.
Can I quickly?
Very quickly, and then
one
we need
sentence,
to.
One sentence.
Yeah.
I love that example, and something just occurred to me. Like you said, people who design playgrounds have designed it with children in mind. And I'm just thinking for digital spaces where children are, we probably need those developers to start getting a certification, like a pedagogical...
Like a driver's license, too.
Well, basically, you wouldn't expect, you know, people who work in spaces where children are, like nurseries, classrooms, these have all been trained to hold space for children. Whereas the digital spaces where children are, these are just designed by developers who have gotten a KPI to increase engagement. Yeah. These are not trained or certified to like hold and create spaces for children.
Yeah.
So probably we need that program, and also that they can lose it if they mess up. We want accountability there too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe
even
that's
if
concrete.
they do their best,
Definitely,
it may
definitely.
still cause harm. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's like the final, you get the final.
It's still on. I know, I agree with you. I think that's a really good idea, and also with what you're saying. So to be even a little bit more concrete when it comes to like giving you an example is that these nowadays a common issue is that children are participating in games that are like over their age recommendation, because in many ways, you know, playing Fortnite for an 8-year-old, it's not that bad. Like you're shooting someone, but it's kind of cartoonish. It's not too bad for many of them. But the social climate, it's really dangerous, like for children. So we need sort of for gaming companies to collaborate with child experts to find ways to create a segmented approach, I think, where you can sort of you can participate in the experience, but with a limited view. Like maybe you can play some type of game modes, but you cannot use the chat and things like that.
It's like you can't go on a roller coaster if you're not a certain height. It's the same
like
thing.
Training wheels, bikes.
Or without the belt.
Yeah.
But also just to sum it up, because, and this is really the closing, and it just feels like we're getting started, but everybody needs to. And it's been, a lot of people went up really early this morning, so it's amazing that you're still up and listening, and you're standing. Yeah, I know. And I have heels, but anyway. But because a lot of the things that you're talking about are happening today. I mean, a lot of it's like we got a lot of examples of organizations working that way, like Toca Boca when they explain how they're working and how they're using the framework for UNICEF. But what of the things that are working? Then, and how do you see, like, for, like, say, the children working forward, and you're also working multidisciplinary, all of you. But what do you think? Is there any specific thing that is missing that you feel like after this day, okay, we're going to make sure that this happens shortly?
Yeah, let me say one thing that is missing, I think, when it comes to also, as Susanne Drakberg talked about earlier, when it comes to, for example, protection in grooming cases, is that it's very difficult for companies to share data, for example. They're trying to solve this problem now with something called Project Lantern, but that's something like, when you ask gaming companies or tech companies, what can you do? They usually say, we can do anything, but the question is, what are we allowed to do? So we need to find safe ways for them to share data and protect children without, while still respecting their integrity, I think.
Okay, thank you. Paulina?
I'm thinking along the lines of, like you mentioned, and we've talked about it in groups, like if you reduce toxicity, for instance, you'll have more player join and you'll have a thriving community, like focusing on the positive things that could get businesses to act more on these areas before we have the legislation and the sort of, you need to do this now. Because if no one is telling them what the positive benefits are, if it's just like they see it as punishment, then there won't be an action. There needs to be some kind of nudging towards a more, designing for a more positive environment.
Thank you. Okay, you have something that you feel like?
Yes.
Very short.
Another thing that I would love to see in the future is, you know, in medical research, people, kind of like GDPR, they can donate their body to science, right? There's a biobank where it's all stored, and all people who have an interest in health and mental health can make requests to get access to this data. Like, why is there no digital biobank? Why are people not being asked to like sign their data away to this place where independent researchers and actors and organizations can get access to start studying what's happening on all these platforms? And another thing that maybe to end on that we haven't talked about, like I talk about structural change, company responsibility, all these big things. Like as an individual, you're also not powerless, right? And I think there are many great tools there that you can use to, you know, keep track of your own consumption, your own relationship to digital media or artificial intelligence. Just always kind of ask yourself, you know, it's a 24-hour time budget. What else would I be doing? If that's just another hobby, then you're spending it fine. But if it's cutting into sleep health, exercise, any of the important like pillars of a healthy life, then what you're doing is probably a dysregulated form of use, and you should, you know, try to counter that. But like, you have individual power too. Yeah.
We do. We have. And thank you, all of you in the panel. A big applaud.
And for the audience.
Yeah, and for the audience, for all of you, for supporting. It's not easy to facilitate when we have so great speakers, and it feels like someone that wants to share this message. I'm like, no, just share this, and it's not easy. So thank you for sharing everything, and then we continue, and then we can continue to interact. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just need to dance. Okay, friends. Now we're wrapping up, and many of us has been with us like, who is the winner? The winner is Katie Conrad, 70 points. Woo, woo, woo. So maybe she will get a prize. We'll make sure that she gets it. Do we have a second and third or just one winner? One, yes, Katie. Very good. It was close there with Debbie. She was very, so if I was you, I will still consider myself a winner, but Katie got more points. Now also, like a message from Save the Children, also it was beautiful to see, I don't know if you realized, but I as a moderator saw it, that Save the Children, they were hosting the conference, and Google, when they were speaking, their slots were a little bit shorter than the other ones. It's like they gave the time to all the other participants. And I think they have done an amazing work in putting this conference together and also gathering all of you here during the day. They want us to remind you of a report that came out yesterday that you can easily get access to by scanning this QR code. And I think this picture is kind of showing, because they asked children who should be the ones that protect them online. And you see, like, it's mostly parents, but it's also governments, it's also tech companies, school, not so much for the children, but NGOs as well, and police. But it's mostly the parents, governments, and tech companies. And this is from children's perspective. But I see that many of you downloaded the QR code. And with that, I just would like to thank you all and hope that we can stay connected and also transfer the Mingla context to LinkedIn so we can keep this dialogue, but most of all to make sure that we keep interacting with each other and together and creating this transformation together with children and for children. With that, thank you so much for today.